Option pitch and a big hole. Ebner gets a great block from his receiver, and then he nearly blew a gasket, kept his balance, reverses direction. A foot race to the corner. One man to beat, and he's pushed out of bounds.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And they go underneath to Johnson. Johnson fighting for the goal line and finding it. Dominic Johnson, touchdown Hawks.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And they'll give it Verdell. Touchdown, Oregon again. C.J. Verdell with his second touchdown of the game.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here's Cooper, four-man rush for Florida State, going to cut it loose. Phil Johnson caught it inside the 10. Phil Johnson on his feet, he'll cut back, and Jacksonville State has won at the Horn.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports with Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and Paul Catalina. We'll be on the air today until 6 o'clock. We have Baylor President Linda Livingstone, who will join us today at 4 o'clock, and also my conversation with Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. That will come up a little bit later on. And, yes, we're going to look back at the college football weekend. And give us right now, if you're on the chat room or the text line, or you want to call in at 254-339-1122. If you want to call in, and also give us who had the 3 best wins in college football, who had the 3 worst losses in college football among everybody across the board on college football from Division I. Obviously, the Oregon win at Ohio State was huge. Yes, we'll talk to Dave Aranda about Baylor and Kansas as they open up Big 12 play. And there's a couple of other games that stood out. Stanford beating USC was big as well. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina in studio, Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie as well. Paul, what was the best win in college football over the weekend? Any doubt it was Oregon?
No, it was definitely Oregon. It was definitely Oregon. I can tell you what the best win and the worst loss was, but the worst loss might throw me into tears. But the best win was definitely Oregon. Oregon, stated their case. I mean, in Ohio State, they still got problems with their defense, big problems with their defense. They cannot stop the run.
Yeah, I'd say it's very clearly Oregon. I mean, I don't think there's even a second option that's even close. You beat Ohio State the way they beat them. Even though the Buckeyes made a run at the end. Very impressive showing for Mario Cristobal and company, and they're a force out there in the Pac-12. Don't know how much competition they have, quite frankly, in that conference. Washington is boo-boo. Utah got beat by BYU. The Holy War streak snapped, and Charlie Brewer, quite frankly, guys, looked like Charlie Brewer that played at Baylor.
He did.
And that was my whole thing with wanting to see what he was going to look like at Utah. I wished him well on his way out. Knew exactly why it was time for some fresh blood for Baylor and a fresh jersey for Charlie. But I think we saw a lot of what we saw the last couple years in that Utah BYU game. So that was interesting. But yeah, going back just to Pac-12, I mean that's Oregon's conference right now. It looks like, and for the Ohio State Buckeyes, I mean they do have some question marks they're going to have to address. So they're not unbeatable. Now we know that for sure. And it's just a matter of if this is going to be a typical Ohio State that still finds themselves in the party at the end or not. But what a win for Oregon.
What about Iowa?
That was a big one,
again,
too.
They twisted Iowa State. It wasn't always easy, but they jumped on them early, and they twisted them around. They knocked Brock Purdy out of the game based on the fact he threw 3 picks. Arkansas and their win against Texas, which, there's so much energy on – you just mentioned Texas. whether it's on our show, on any show. There's like, and as soon as they beat University of Louisiana, you kind of, because it's a top 25 team, and then they go and get hammered. And the thing about Fayetteville, the thing about what Oregon did and what Arkansas did, they jammed the ball down people's throats in those games as well.
Yeah,
and great defense from Arkansas.
No, tremendous defense from Arkansas. I mean, like you said, they made Hudson Card look terrible. It's to the point to where now Texas is heading into their third game and they've changed quarterbacks. I mean, who would have thought that necessarily after last week where Card looked pretty good? I mean, for a guy who hadn't played a ton, who hadn't been a starter, I mean, he looked pretty good against Louisiana, but they got pretty much everything that could be considered a weakness got totally exposed against Arkansas. The offensive line, we knew going in, had some question marks, but they got a lot of work to do. Defensively, there's a couple of star players, but they got a lot of work to do. Like, hey, Demarion Overshown's great, but outside of that, there's a lot of question marks. Quarterback's not settled. If you can key on Bijan, then he cannot be nearly as effective. He doesn't hit the 100-yard mark. So, tip of the cap to Arkansas for just a thorough whooping. And I'm sure that felt pretty good for Kendall Briles to be able to hand that to Texas as well.
Well, Texas has the same problem on both sides of the ball. They've got a lot of guys who are okay, but they only have a couple guys who are fantastic, and that's Bijan Robinson and Demarion Overshown. And I know Jordan Whitting, but Bijan and Demarion Overshown are head and shoulders above everybody else on their side of the ball, and that's a problem. Here's another prediction for you guys. Texas' starting quarterback is playing at another college right now. I'm sure of it that next year starting quarterback.
Think so.
Yeah, I don't think that Hudson Card or Casey Thompson have done anything to make Steve Sarkisian happy, which is why he has to waffle back and forth on them.
Well, I know their fan base has had a back and forth. There's split parties there. Yeah,
remember the days when your mother might have put up a clothesline and they put sheets out and they pinned them to the clothesline and the wind would blow this way or the wind would blow that way, and that's kind of what you got to be careful of that with your quarterback play because Card got the edge at the end. And it took them until the second half, right, before they put Thompson in, who moved him a little bit, but by then Arkansas took over that game.
And you can argue it was way too late. I mean, it would have been good to see Casey Thompson in there earlier just to see what he could do. And then, you get him in there at the end of the game when Arkansas's got guys 20 yards deep on defense, and he throws a couple passes, and people are like, see, he should have, like, it was a totally different situation. But you can make the argument that Sarkisian should have made the switch a little bit earlier given how much they were struggling. But, yeah, great win for Arkansas. I think the thing for Texas is clearly their defense needs some work. I remember a comment just a few weeks ago by a very snarky fan about the Texas defense, and I do remember that, and I was just kind of giggling at that on Saturday night. But the offensive line, that's the lines on both sides of the ball. Isn't that what we always hear about the SEC? Is that where, that's what took A&M some time was to – now they had – a good O-line going in because of Mike Sherman. But, I mean, they had to build up that D-line. They had to bring in the big old guys that are, 4 and 5 stars. And so Texas has some work to do, not only in the Big 12, but just taking a look at whenever they do depart. There's going to be that difference, and I think Arkansas showed that on Saturday.
All right, let's go to some of the text and also the chat room from the 303. Let's see. From the 254, biggest wins, Arkansas, Oregon. And worst loss was Texas, Utah, and Florida State. Sorry, Paul. That's from the 254. You mentioned Oklahoma in terms of a bounce back. Beating Western Carolina, they did hammer them. And, of course, that renewal of the 50th year, the game of the century, Nebraska-Oklahoma coming up in Norman this Saturday, late morning up in Norman.
I think it's pretty clear Oklahoma's the best team in the conference. I mean, if you were going to go into a game and have to pick anybody from the Big 12, if you're picking anybody other than Oklahoma, I think you're kind of crazy. Yeah. I know that they faltered against, Tulane, but they've been notorious for that. They've been notorious for kind of sleepwalking. K-State knows all too well. Iowa State knows that. I mean, that's something that they've done before. So when they got their heads on straight and they don't let the foot off the gas, then they're a very dangerous team, and you see why they're ranked where they're ranked.
Yeah. From the 3-2, go ahead.
Yeah, the Big 12 after this weekend looks like a conference that has many more questions than answers.
Yeah, I agree. The 3-2-1, FSU, Texas, USC had the biggest losses. Mike said, how about wins that may have been embarrassing, Texas A&M and Notre Dame? I'm telling you right now, you go into play, Colorado we know is not all that good, But you go there and play someone like that on the road, and then you lose your quarterback, found a way to win. Now, was the offense something you want to write home about? No, not at all. But they found a way, despite the circumstances. It looked as if they were going to lose that game 7-3, and they found a way. They scored. It was overturned because it was a fumble, and then they got it back. The defense found a way. It wasn't a quality win, but it was a win because you could also be looking at that as a loss right now.
I think Mike's being a little elitist here and snobby. It's not like Mike. Come on, Mike. There's no such thing as an embarrassing win. There's a nerve-wracking win, and there's certainly one of them, but believe me, there is no such thing as an embarrassing win.
Well, I think if you were to beat Baylor and beat Texas Southern by 1 on Saturday, that would be kind of an embarrassing win, to be fair. But to beat a Power 5 team, I don't care who it is, beat Colorado on the road, it's game 2. I can forgive that.
Lost your quarterback in the first series.
And you lost your quarterback. I mean, shoot. So it'll be very interesting to see how Calzada performs over the next few weeks. Jimbo gave a loose timeline, and it's going to be a few weeks for Haynes King to return with that ankle injury. So Calzada had one of the all-time blunders potentially in that game with the fumble at the goal line. But like you said, they found a way to get it done. So now they know he's the man moving forward, and he'll need to get the job done for them. But they do have a salty defense, and that'll keep them in some games. So, a bit of a wild card thrown their way early on in the season, but we'll see how they do.
A couple of you asking about Garrett Green being brought in by West Virginia, gave the offense a spark. That's something we noticed a little bit.
Jarrett Dagey had a good stat line and had a pretty good performance overall. I mean, I think, just in general. But I've seen a lot of that clamoring for Garrett Green. Last week, Jarrett Dagey was just the Jarrett Dagey that we've seen. And I don't think he's somebody that puts West Virginia over the top. I think he's, if anything, a little bit of an Achilles heel at times. So, therefore, the clamoring to see the other guy. So often, right, who's the most popular player, the backup quarterback? Well, Garrett Green flashed a little something, and that'll be another little quarterback position battle to watch, I think, moving forward.
All right, so it's interesting to me. We will have some new notes for you on the Big 12 and moving forward. I shared some of the things, the inside workings of the Big 12 moving forward. And maybe the timeline, just a little bit of a tease that even though I think most people think that Texas and Oklahoma would be gone by the end of this year as far as football terms, and then, of course, they're saying the right things, but 24-25. And that's what Bob Bowlesby's saying as well, that maybe after 2 years, because of a lot of little things that kind of intermix, that might be the time and when Texas and Oklahoma leave the Big 12, because the Big 12 then will have had their 4 based on, of course, what needs to be done with the 4 that were announced on Friday. So a lot of things to get to. 254-339-1122. I want to get into one thing. We'll go, Craig, I'll let you comment. We'll tease you on this. Had a chance to visit with Dave Aranda. After the game Saturday, in a game they should have won, and they did, 66-7 against Texas Southern, Siaka Ika did not play, their big 350-plus pound nose tackle. Why he didn't play, what was the reasoning behind it? Will he play as they start conference play against Kansas this week? And comments from Dave Aranda on that, and then the interview with him at just after 5 o'clock today.
Proud of you being here today, Paul, after the weekend that you had. I mean, we just glossed over that as far as the bad losses go, but
a lot of people talking to you on the text.
Yeah. I know, I see it. It was tough. It's also tough when the coach answers a question, well, why weren't you in prevent? Here's what I know. There are many times that we all could say we could coach better than that in the college football world. But I know for a fact that all 5 of us in this room right now, all 5 of us would have called a prevent defense on 4th and 10 with 6 seconds left and not been worried about their timeout like Mike Norvell apparently was. He could not have answered that question worse than that, other than say, all I want to say is yes, we played like crap. It's unacceptable. And when you say, why weren't you in prevent, that's why the timeout, Who can? There's 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
That's 6 seconds. If they can run a play to get down in 5 and get the timeout, that's a miracle.
Yeah, and to hear the call with William Floyd doing color and hear him slamming down his headset after, he's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, that was hilarious. He's like, "I just said that. I just said, stay back and keep everything in front of you." That was wild, man. I mean, that was not a game I had on my radar at all, obviously, but to see that finish and to see it in Tallahassee, I mean, that was crazy stuff.
Baylor knows that they'll play Iowa State 2:30 a week from Saturday against the Cyclones in Waco. They have Texas coming up again. They have They have Kansas coming up to open up the conference play this weekend.
Going back to the impressive wins, you just briefly mentioned Iowa, but that was a hell of an impressive win. Iowa's a really good football team. They're a dangerous football team. They put it on Iowa State, and not like just blew them out or anything, but it was pretty clear they were the best team in that game. Iowa State just can't get over that Hawkeye bump in the road, but that Hawkeye bump in the road doesn't necessarily end their season. They lost to them last year, lost them the year before, but they lost to them last year and still ended up in a Big 12 title game. I wouldn't be surprised if they find their way there again. But there is a little bit of, they haven't looked very good in either game they played. Baylor hadn't played anybody yet, but at least they looked good doing it on Saturday. I mean, that's all you can really ask for. I think Iowa State's, there's still strengths of theirs that are clearly strengths, but offense has been a little bit erratic. So I'm curious to see, how they develop the rest of the way.
All right, it's 3:16. Dr. Livingstone from Baylor is supposed to join us today at 4 o'clock, and then again after 5, we'll hear from Dave Aranda. Here is, do we have it, Armstrong? This is a part of my interview that we'll have in the 5 o'clock hour with Dave Aranda on Baylor nose tackle Siaka Ika. Apu is what they call him, the LSU transfer. He was not a part of the game against Texas Southern. So I today asked him in the postgame. And he said that he felt like it was because of an incident he needed to suspend him. And then he said that he expected him back this week. And I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yes, he'll be back for the Kansas game." So I had a chance to visit with Dave Aranda again and asked him about the big tackle, the transfer tackle for Baylor. You and you mentioned this before about Siaka, and you suspended him for the game. Is this part of when you've mentioned before his maturity about it's more than just being a freak athlete? There's a lot of other things that go into that. And to make that decision, obviously you were disappointed. Where is he? You said he's going to play this week.
Yes, yeah. I go back to with Apu, being a part of his recruitment, meeting his parents, meeting his sister, being in their house multiple times, meeting his brother, getting to know their values and know what's important, what they hold dear. And then, when the opportunity at Baylor came, revisiting all of that and connecting again and expressing, "Hey man, y'all's values are the same as ours, right? And this is the standards that we hold. And these are the things that we believe in, and they're the same as what you're saying there." And so I know, for Apu, man, to recognize that this is family and that we got him, and that I know that he's learned from this past week, and that he's going to take this week like a champ. I believe it completely. Just knowing his upbringing and his people.
As a coach, is it the name, the value? Is it the talent? Is it how good they are? Or would that have been if it was the third string long snapper?
You talking about the penalty?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it would be no matter who it was. Yeah, I think having integrity, man, is like way hard. And it's way hard for me. It's way hard, and I think you can't let anything seep into that. I think your integrity, that's who you are. And so, for you to say whatever you say, that needs to be what you do. All right, so that's Dave Aranda addressing Siaka Ika, who is expected to play against Kansas coming up this weekend. We do know that Tyrone Brown, who announced that he's in the transfer portal,
is not back, is not a part of the team any longer as well. Now what we'll do, break here, come back. We got 2 calls. Yeah. Let's take the calls, and then we'll break after 2 calls, load them back up. Text line, chat room, all of you going crazy. We'll try to answer as much as we can. And I know I see Tim out there, Tim Vermeer, because Iowa, I think we did a top 5 when we talked about offenses that maybe are just, I hope and I wish that one day my football team played like that, because they used to. I love what Iowa did. They went into Ames, huge moment, and they just are tough. And I don't care if you score 25 points a game or you score 50, win the damn game and play that way. That's the way I was brought up. And again, I'm old school on that. I thought Iowa, in what they did against Iowa State, was incredibly impressive. All right,
let's go to Chris in Missouri. You're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. How was your weekend?
Great.
Hey, I just wanted to call and say congratulations to Pitt with their win over Tennessee. That was something the ACC desperately needed. As far as the Big 12 goes, congratulations to Bowlesby. I think expansion was the best bet for the Big 12. I mean, if you had just sat on your hands too long, you probably would have been preyed on by the AAC. So congrats to Bowlesby. Congrats to everybody in the Big 12, and I hope the conference gets a great TV contract. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the call.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the TV contract will work itself out pretty well. I do. I think it might be a little bit less, but it's.
We'll have more on that in the next segment.
Yeah.
We'll kind of break down a few more things that I'm hearing about the TV money, about what the timelines are and why. We'll have that here in the next segment.
Well, I'll say that they're at least in a boat now. I mean, they were on a cruise ship thinking that everything was great, or on a yacht even, and got thrown overboard, and we're just kind of out there, waiting on help. And now a big old boat has finally come by, and they've added some new members, and I think that there's a lot more security than there was. I mean, time will tell, like you said, on the TV contract, and that will have a significant impact on how to sort of view the Big 12 and how prominent they will be, or how much favor they will be able to potentially get going their way, moving forward with this new look, new teams and all of that. But I don't know, I'm pretty confident that they're gonna find a partner that will find their brand attractive. And so we will see. On that note, like you said, a great win for Pitt over Tennessee. Tennessee fans just been through a lot, haven't they?
Yeah.
Tennessee fans have been through quite a lot. But yeah, with Johnny Majors Classic, nice win for them. Close game, coming down to the wire, and great win for Pitt. And yeah, absolutely.
254-339-1122. Chris, thanks for leading us off today.
All right, T-Rex, you're on Sick'em 365 Radio on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Happy Monday. Hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all recovered fine from what was probably an easy game to cover on Monday. Only thing I want to say about that game is one negative. Our backup defense should be punished with like 1,100 yard sprints and tire flips for allowing them to score. There is no excuse for not having a shutout. If I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm blowing that whistle till the thing breaks, and then I get my trainer to bring me another whistle. There is no excuse for letting them win. All right, I digress. I'm obviously kidding. But seriously, though, I am upset that we didn't get 70, so we didn't score in that last drive how we should have, but that's whatever. I think we just kind of, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Great game, great atmosphere. Good to see everybody back in McLean for the first time. I was at them last year, but not everybody was able to make games last year. So it was great to see everybody make new friends, see old friends. Hey, we got Kansas this week. We started Big 12 play. KU is all that matters right now. Iowa State game announcement. That's cool and all, and I really hope that it's like 1,000 degrees on next Saturday. But for right now, we're going to Lawrence. I'll see you there in Lawrence. If you're listening, we'll be tailgating, we'll be partying. Let's go support our Bears on the road. Sick'em Bears, and happy Monday, guys.
All right, T-Rex, great to know that you always survived and you're not in jail. Appreciate the time and the call and the insight. And I know you were joking. For a second there, I wasn't so sure. In a 66-7 win, as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I wouldn't be surprised there are some fans that are like that, who are like, we should have had the shutout. I was hoping they were going to get the shutout just for the defense's sake, and it's a nice little thing to hang your hat on. But, I mean, those backups came in. It's clear a lot of those guys haven't played a lot, and that's why it was valuable for them to everybody. I mean, what I said going into the weekend, what I was saying a week ago today, was they had no business having trouble with that game. This should be a game where we get to see everybody on full display. It should be a game where the bench empties. It should be a game where by the fourth quarter at the latest, people are able to just sit back and, loosen their belt and just, relax because there's not any concern that the game's going to go sideways. And that's exactly what you got on Saturday. I mean, look, Texas Southern is nowhere near the talent level of Baylor. And, you could even make an argument that they just didn't even belong on the same field. But they came, they played hard, and, Baylor's just a much better team, which we knew going in, and they showed it.
Yep, they did what they're supposed to do, and even better.
Yeah.
And the scoop and score from J.T. Woods, turnovers, contagious. Now,
looked good.
Yeah, you're 2-0. You matched last year. You were expected to. You're supposed to be. We expect you to be 3-0. And I say you, Baylor, Kansas coming next on the schedule in a game in Lawrence to start the Big 12 schedule.
And it was interesting to be at McLean Stadium with fans.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
It really was.
It's been a long time, and it was nice. It wasn't like packed because of the opponent, but it was cool.
And the men's basketball team presented their Big 12 championship rings and eventually the national championship rings at a game coming up this fall at the Farrell Center. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They've got the savings events going on now at Richard Carr, and they've got a lot of great deals for you on the lot. A lot of different vehicles to offer you as well. Labor Day sale pricing was going on over the last month, and it continues to go on all through the rest of this month. That's right, Labor Day savings all throughout the month of September. Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, and each one goes through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. With dozens of lenders, they say yes when others say no, and 100% credit approval is always the goal. They also have the Cadillacs. The ultimate American luxury vehicle, sophisticated looks, powerful and exhilarating drive at Richard Carr Cadillac. They'll find the right model for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan starting at only $33,395 or the XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size to fit your lifestyle. They don't have the right car or truck for you on the lot right now. They'll put you first in line for the many that will be coming their way, so get your name on the priority list to get the perfect vehicle for yourself as soon as they arrive. And for those in the Waco area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. And if you want to go over to the dealership and take a test drive, well, they will set that up for you, or they will bring the test drive to you. They got the yellow tag, Labor Day savings all month at Richard Carr. They are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
The thing about having a naked truck is that you get exposed for the equipment you don't have. Take, for example, your rear end. If you don't have anything back there, you're exposed about what you don't have, and that's a life. However, if you cover that rear end with a hitch, you're telling the world, hey, I got a little junk in my bed, and I'm ready to pull something. A camper, RV, boat, trailer, jet skis, heck, even a bike rack. A hitch says, I have a life beyond driving my truck to and from work, and Pickup Outfitters is the place to get a hitch for your truck, SUV, van, even some cars. We sell and install just about any kind of hitch you need. Receiver hitches from light to heavyweight to pull just about anything. And gooseneck hitches and fifth wheels when you're ready to pull the heavy stuff. And don't forget trailer and brake controller wiring. It's so important to have wiring professionally and correctly installed by the pros at Pickup Outfitters. So it's time to cover that gaping hole in the rear end of your truck with a hitch installed by Pickup Outfitters. Check us out online at createacommotion.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, so the Big 12 Friday announced their 4 teams. We went through that. We had Mac Rhodes on. Saturday in our pregame show, we heard from Bob Bowlesby. Now, the timeline of what happens next, and also we do look back and ahead, college football's past weekend and also the upcoming weekend. Jimbo Fisher, Haynes King, crack in his lower leg. Sounds like it could be a stress fracture, didn't get to, but he's going to miss some time. And that obviously is a huge deal. The young man that came in,
Zach Calzada.
I thought, he had the fumble at the goal line, didn't protect it, but I thought he did everything he could humanly do based on his talent level and maybe the extra snaps, but they found a way to get a win. I thought they got away from the running game a little bit much, but I can understand with what they have in the weapons with the running game. But so that's Haynes King news from Jimbo Fisher. So now there's the thought about this Brigham Young and the 3 teams. When do they come in? How is this affected? How can the Big 12, in your opinion, when everyone looks at, there's the possibility of Texas and Oklahoma leaving at the end of this year. How much cleaner would it be for everybody involved if they left after the 22-23 season?
Well, it'd be a lot cleaner because it would all fit into a timeline. So, yeah, a lot cleaner.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have to schedule games between OU and Texas and those 4 to fill out 2 years of seasons, and then
you wouldn't have potentially a year of 8 teams.
If you have 8 teams,
there'd be a lot of things. You wouldn't have a year of 8 teams. You wouldn't have to have scheduling issues. You wouldn't the teams would just slide in and they would be ready to play in the Big 12. It wouldn't be like this herky jerky. We've got 10 now. We've got 8 now. We've got 12. Like what it could end up being. So I just think for smooth exit and entrances all to coincide at the same time, it would make sense for it to all happen when the contracts run out.
Well, you would lose games. You would not be able to play in a conference championship game. You'd lose that money, and also that means you would also not have enough data points to be a part of the college football playoff scenario, and that's money as well. So Brigham Young, initially there was a thought that they could join as early as next year, and then the others come along the following year. But, again, the scheduling issue was something the Big 12 had to also think about. Brigham Young pushed back to 2023, along with the others, if they can get out of their exit and do that correctly. That then allows the Big 12 to have the full schedule. And if Texas and Oklahoma were to move on as well, they get to do what they want. The Big 12 gets to play the number of games they need based on a conference championship, part of a conference championship into a college football championship, whatever. But... And imagine if the Big 12 has this high, then Texas and Oklahoma leave for whatever reason, which for whatever reason is for the SEC, then the Big 12's kind of holding the bag again. And they're back into a bad light, correct?
Yeah.
So the timing of this, I think what you look at right now, there is a chance when you look at everything involved. ESPN, as much as Bob Bowlesby threw a dart their way, and it apparently worked, that ESPN, in the end, I think there's a good chance that ESPN works with the Big 12 and somehow makes this work because it's better for them as well.
Well, it's also better for them because the American's not the American they've had signed up. They just lost three of their best teams. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly what they had in mind when their whole plan was to disintegrate the Big 12, fold them into the AAC, and pay them a lot less money. Well, now the AAC's gone the opposite direction. So I think it behooves ESPN, rather than to try to make the American into something it can't be anymore, because you're not going to bring in 4 teams that are at the level of the 3 teams that just left. What's the better league now? It's very clearly the Big 12 now and in the future. So business-wise, it seems like a bit of a no-brainer.
So the Big 12 will probably working with Texas and Oklahoma to help whatever that time might be, knowing that this is going to happen. Brigham Young and their exit package from the WCC being absorbed into what is the Big 12. The exit package that was being debated for the other 3 who are joining the league in the AAC as they move into the Big 12, the common denominator is ESPN. Now, what if they move forward with not a signed agreement, which is dangerous, but the possibility of everybody realizing what's in the best interest, although that's dangerous as well. The ACC lets Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF leave and a $10 exit fee.
$10 million.
$10 million. That would be easy. You can leave.
$10. Listen, and everyone in here can
start immediate membership in the Big 12 in July of 2023, the same year that Brigham Young would enter. Each of those 4 coming in pay $2.5 million in escrow to the conference. The Big 12 then offers to pay the exit fees for them and negotiations for their exit with, of course, getting 50% of the revenue for the Big 12 deal in 23-24 and 50% reduction the following year. We've mentioned that before. So it seems like, and that allows the conference to keep the conference championship game and the money and the NCAA tournament and the units and, of course, the college football playoff as well. Now, what the Big 12 will then do is hold Texas and Oklahoma for 2 years, not 1. That's interesting because for a while there you wondered if they had any power at all other than the grant of rights, which is the big deal. That allows them to leave at the end of June of 2023, the day after or the day before the other 4 join the Big 12. And I think that's kind of going to be a possibility. And the exit fee from Texas and Oklahoma, which we've estimated in that $80 million or whatever, will be based off of not this year. Will be based off of when they decided they were going to leave, or they announced that they were going to leave, and off of what the money is this year, not the highest number of 24-25. Still going to pay quite a bit of money. But these are some things that are right now behind the scenes being worked on. And the media deal that ESPN has right now, if you take Oklahoma's exit fees, there is still going to be some money involved. For example, the $429 million payout for the conference from ESPN is a gross figure. The exit fee is based on the gross number, not the net number. So each member has a gross of $42.9 million. Oklahoma, Texas, everybody else. It is twice this that each Oklahoma and Texas would then pay to leave the conference June of 2023. And that is $85 million. What do you do with that $85 million? Well, you use it, pay off exit fees, you use it to spread the money around, and you figure out a way also with ESPN, hey, you get what you want, we get what we want, and the AAC, the 3 teams coming in, get what they want, although at a reduced price for the first 2 years.
Yeah, and I think also, I think the most basic thing of leaving in 2 years is gives everybody 2 years in all conferences to figure out your schedules. Because you're going to have to pay, one of the things you're going to have to use that money for is to pay off some contracts of some guarantee games.
Possibility, yes.
So
now, if in fact Texas and Oklahoma leave with 2 years left in the grant of rights, then ESPN's going to want to reduce that number, right? 35% has been the number we've thought about. If you think about that, that then lowers from what is supposed to be $439 in 2023.
$439 million.
Million dollars. It would be possibly just $285 million. The debate is whether or not ESPN will honor that. Why would they? Because it also allows them to do what they want to do with the SEC. It's very convoluted, a lot of numbers, but 285 is 28.5 million. Minus the money off the top goes to the Big 12. That means 8 equal shares of 25.65 million and 4 equal half shares of 12.85 million for the new members the first year, the 2023. And then of course, there's the possibility of whatever they get in the exit fees from Texas and Oklahoma and how they distribute that as well. Should the Oklahoma and Texas exit fees, whatever that number is going to be, 80 million, 20 million, 60 million, or whatever million each, should that go to the 8 remaining teams, or should that also then be in some way spread around to the incoming teams? Remember, you're trying to talk about unity here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know that it should be totally equal.
I agree.
And I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. I'm not really fleshing out this thought. Very spur of the moment reaction to it, but yeah, I don't think that they deserve to have the same amount as the originals, but I also don't think they deserve nothing. So I think you could probably come to a fair lowered price, a little bit off the plate to give them a little something. But aren't you also helping them out with their exit fees anyways? So you already are giving them money. You're giving them money up front to pay their exit fees, so they don't have to worry about that, and it's not a hiccup in them joining. So, I mean, I would just say, like, hey, this money's going towards your exit fee, quite frankly. But either way, yeah, I wouldn't completely shut them out from that, but they don't deserve the same slice of the pie as of now as Oklahoma as Oklahoma State or Baylor or Texas Tech or TCU or those who have been around the last few years.
I agree. I think that they can get a piece of it or help use that money to help those incoming teams. But as far as if there's going to be money that goes in the bank, you would think it would go to the teams who have been a part of the original grant of rights, who also survived yet another death blow it appeared at one point to the conference. 254-339-1122, the number to call. It's 342. Let's come back. We'll take calls and your text and much more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. City of Woodway, discoverwoodway.com. They continue to have their concerts on Friday. You can go to discoverwoodway.com for ticket prices and the opportunity to go to the concert coming up at the Arboretum on Friday. And they still continue to have sand volleyball and flag football. Registration continues if you want to, and that's for the younger kids in the ages of 5 to 10, 10, 11, 12, and 13 years old. Sand volleyball and also flag football. Go to discoverwoodway.com, and also with Baylor coming up a home game against Iowa State, not this weekend, but next, and all the other games, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Brigham Young. Go to discoverwoodway.com and you can find one of the 7 hotels that you could try to book a room, and it's about a 10-minute drive, maybe not even that far. Let's say 7 to 12 minutes max based on the traffic, and I-35 can be a little bit congested, of course, as you know, but hotels that are not that far away from Baylor University, McLean Stadium, eventually even the Farrell Center with basketball season, Magnolia, Balcones, or even our studio just off the Brazos River at discoverwoodway.com.
Jeep Adventure Days are going on now at Allen Samuels. Come see the 2021 Grand Cherokee Laredo, the most awarded SUV ever, with total values of $3,250. Beautiful design, elegant style, Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo at Allen Samuels, your home for the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. Why BetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICK'EM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbets, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, back to the calls and much, much more. We mentioned the Haynes King news. He's got a crack in his lower leg. Wins last weekend that seemed to be the most popular from all of you. Oregon, Iowa, Arkansas. I missed one, obviously, the shocker with Jacksonville State. We did bring that up. And then the worst losses. Who are the worst losses? I know, Paul, we could go to Florida State, but as far as the worst losses, Texas and Arkansas has to be one, and Ohio State, they'll be fine. But that
I'd
wasn't
say it's
good.
probably the ones on the opposite end of the biggest wins. I mean, in most cases.
And then, of course, USC losing to Stanford after Kansas State had beaten Stanford 24-7. That was a nice win for David Shaw. I think Stanford needed that.
Has Clay Helton been fired yet?
Not by the athletic director, but by all the fans.
Yeah,
so.
Rightfully so. Hey, got a connection to that USC staff. Don't know Graham Harrell from Adam, but do know his wife really well because she's one of my sister's best friends and has been for 20 years. And, I just thought on Saturday watching USC, I sent my sister a text, actually. I was like, man, I really hope Brittany's not watching Twitter right now or, on social media at all as a coach's wife, because I was just seeing of a lot of Helton hate and not a whole lot of favor for really anybody, quite frankly, on that USC coaching staff, including Harrell. So, kind of surprising. I wouldn't have been surprised at all, and I don't think many would if USC had made an announcement today. So I'm curious to see. I guess that buyout money is obviously a hang-up. But outside of that, I don't know what they're waiting for.
But look, Mike Bohn is the athletic director there now, and they stopped their succession of former USC athletes, which is a big thing that they were doing. They brought in Mike Bohn, who's a real athletic director, and we'll see what happens. He's not anytime you want to know when a coach is really in trouble, when you're struggling with a new athletic director. When you're struggling with the AD that hired you, a lot of times you guys can go down with the ship together and try to fight your way out of it. But it's why, Mike Norvell won't be in any real trouble for another couple years before Florida State gets one. But it's why Clay Helton should be a little bit more in trouble because Mike Bohn's been on the job for a little bit longer now. And, he's got to right the football ship. I mean, that's his first job in the athletic department is make sure the moneymaker continues making you money. And yeah, Clay Helton's probably on notice.
I don't know how much money is coming in when Keyshawn Johnson is on Twitter moments after the game talking about how embarrassing it is. I mean, once you start getting those guys popping off, the big alums, the big ex-players, that's when things are really going downhill. So Keyshawn pops off all the time, but for him to go on record as having supported Helton but no longer being able to fight on for him or whatever it was he said exactly. Yeah, it was pretty damning. It was. And they've had time. I mean, it's not like they haven't had time. Keaton Slovis doesn't look like he's that much better. I mean, I don't know. Clay Helton's just not the guy, clearly. So I'm curious to see how long that lasts and how much he's able to drag out the inevitable.
All right, Paul.
All right, let's go to Tracy in Ohio. Tracy, thanks for your call. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, look, the hottest seat from this week is Steve Sarkisian from Texas. Here's why. They lost to a mid-grade SEC squad, and they're supposed to be joining the SEC. I think as far as expansion goes, you want to add those 4 teams next year because you want to give Steve Sarkisian one opportunity to beat some of these teams. If he can't beat these teams coming into the league, when they made the jump to 2023 with Oklahoma, I don't see him there because losing in the fashion he did to Arkansas, which is still rebuilding, is quite disastrous for him. If you ask me this early, I mean the rest of the season, if he goes 7-8 wins, I mean what are we talking about here? It's supposed to be Texas, right? USC in the same boat too. I mean Clay Helton got to go. I mean these supposed to be the Blue Bloods, right? I mean, the Alliance ain't looking too hot right now with Ohio State going down either. So, Big 12 looks like it's slowly creeping in. We're going to see Cincinnati against Indiana and Notre Dame. If they win out, I mean, Texas got to look really, really bad for the season.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Sarkisian's getting, at least 3 years. Unless he goes just disastrously off the rails, which I don't foresee that happening. He's going to have time. It's only game number 2. You can always say, well, I got to get my guys in here, right? And you've always got the mulligans of changing assistant coaches at least once as well. We saw Tom Herman run through that before he was eventually, totally out of excuses. So, I do think, to your point, that there's maybe a totally different feeling or a little bit of a different feeling amongst the Texas fan base after what they witnessed versus last Monday. Certainly, that Lafayette win, it wasn't perfect by any means, and there was reasons to believe like the O-line was going to be an issue before they'd even played a game that was potentially an issue. But the way they just got beat around on Saturday, and that final score wasn't even indicative of how bad it was. That's what's concerning because, like you said, that's not like the top power in the SEC. That's not even the top 5 power in the SEC. The good news for them, though, is they still have at least 2 years. So they have time to build up a D-line and do all of that. But in the meantime, they've also got to still win in the Big 12. So if anything, he's not on any hot seat at all, but it at least gives him that first little mark against him. You know what I mean? Where they're going to hold on to that one depending on what happens moving forward. And so, no threat of him being gone anytime soon. And you got to give him some time. But that was unexpected. I mean, not that they lost, but the way they lost. How badly they lost. That was what was unexpected to me.
It's one thing to just you lose a game at a shootout. It's one thing if you throw up all over yourself. I know Dicker dropped a snap, and that was costly. It's another thing when somebody beats you up. Mm-hmm. And that's somebody in Arkansas. Yes, these teams have played each other for a long, long time. They got beat up. And now you're going back and forth with your quarterback. If Casey Thompson comes in and performs well, then what happens against another team when he doesn't play well? And then all of a sudden that can divide your team. I'm not saying it will, but it can. But they got beat up. Arkansas beat them up. It's like Oregon. It's not that they beat Ohio State. It's they shoved the ball down their throats for almost 300 yards or so rushing, or maybe it was 365 yards rushing, whatever it was, maybe 265. They got beat up. That's hard to deal with. It's one thing to lose. You have things. It's another thing when somebody physically beats you up. And for Texas, that's got to be an alarming situation.
Yeah, it ended the honeymoon quickly. I mean, it ended the honeymoon after 1 week.
Welcome to Austin, Texas.
Yeah, it was great last week and all of that. But, yeah, they've got to figure out the quarterback situation. That'll be very interesting to watch on Saturday. Now, how much do we really know after they beat up on Rice? I don't know. But if Casey Thompson goes in there and is able to move the offense and looks good doing it, then, maybe he's the guy moving forward. Card's still young, so you really don't want to damage him too much early on. You know what I mean? If he's not going to be as effective, I mean, Thompson's probably the right call. But yeah, I mean, definitely an eye-opening loss for sure on week 2.
I know we got to take a break. A couple of real quick chats from James. After Skylar Thompson went down Saturday, Kansas State went from what was a video game ranking in the mid-80s to the equivalent of an NFL Europe team. Will Howard is just not going to get it done.
Look, they started off hot last year with Skylar Thompson, beat Oklahoma, right? Early last year. My years might be confused, but they started off hot, and then he got hurt, and it all went downhill after that. I mean, it was up and then like a chart, just all the way up and then all the way down. So, yeah, that's horrible news for them. The only good saving grace is that it's not season ending, but the fact that he is going to miss a few weeks, that's incredibly concerning for K-State, no doubt about it.
Nathan Sharp, another aspect that helps the Big 12 in giving these 4 teams coming in time is to recruit depth, pitching that they're going to be a part of the future Big 12, and also help make it more seamless. It would be bad if they sucked upon entry, and some teams might do well. TCU early on, they were in a good run and did well immediately in the Big 12, but it's always something. It's not that you can beat somebody. It's one thing if you can beat teams week in and week out. And the 4 incoming teams are good. Don't get me wrong, they are. But there's a depth issue that you have to work with. A&M is just now basically almost getting to that point, and it's been almost a decade. Not that they haven't had some teams along the way. We got to take a break. Coming up next, Baylor President Dr. Linda Livingstone. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace. Baylor had their first home game, and now they have another one a week from Saturday, and it's going to be Iowa State, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great atmosphere. So right now you could order what you need for tailgating at Waco Custom Marketplace, or you go by there and just shop for what you want to eat tonight or sometime this week. They have regular groceries up and down, like boxes of crackers, box dinners, Rotel tomatoes, pasta, chips, of course, soft drinks, and if you want cold beer and wine when you walk in the door off to the right. But also the main part of what they have are 2 things, the bakery and the butcher shop. Bakery, fresh baked bread every day, and also fresh baked kolaches every morning. And the butcher shop with pork, poultry, and beef, and seafood as well. You want tri-tip or brisket, you want sausage or chicken wings, you want something for the tailgate for Iowa State coming up a week from Saturday, you can call now and get that order in, and then pick it up at your convenience the following week. Waco Custom Marketplace, your tailgate store at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sikkim Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
4th and short. They will hand it to Smith. First down. He's in the open. Touchdown, Baylor.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Man, there's been so much going on in college athletics, and Mack Rhodes joined us a couple of times last week. Bob Bowlesby on the pregame show Saturday. And today we're now joined, great to have President of Baylor University, Dr. Linda Livingstone, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. We want to get into the expansion, college athletics, but a lot of other things. And what was it like? First of all, thanks for your time today. I saw the story that for the first time ever, Baylor University went above 20,000 when it comes to your enrollment. What does that mean?
Well, it's great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to visit today about a variety of things. Well, I think what that signals is just the great interest there is nationwide in Baylor and what we're seeking to do here to be a preeminent Christian research university. And a lot of that growth is in our graduate and professional programs, which is not an area we'd put a lot of emphasis on. And that has really given us a huge national reach in addition to the growing national interest in our undergraduate programs. So we're excited about the future and lots of opportunity for us. And certainly says a lot about the way the folks across the country are thinking about Baylor.
What's it like to be part of conference realignment when clearly no one knew that it was coming 2 months ago, and then you have to jump right in and fix something that no one had planned on even talking about for a while?
Well, it was a rather frenetic 6 to 8 weeks there, I must say. You know, when you have time to plan and prepare and anticipate things, you, of course, approach them a bit differently. But I do have to say, even though it was not something we expected at the time it came, I can't say enough about my the 7 other colleagues in the Big 12, the 8 athletic directors, and the way we pulled together, worked with the conference office to get to where we were able to announce what we did on Friday. So it was a heavy lift and many hours put into it by many people, but I think a very good outcome.
President Livingston, I'm just curious, how did you first find out about that Texas-Oklahoma move?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I was actually just getting ready to leave town on a family trip and actually was in Oklahoma when it really hit. I think we were just getting ready to leave when we learned about it. And, you know, you kind of hear it in the media first because we're all so surprised. And Texas A&M, of course, I think is who we learned leaked it. But you know, it was really a surprise to all of us. I'd been in many meetings, obviously, with the presidents of Texas and OU, where we'd been talking about the conference and the future of the conference, and just no signals whatsoever that they were unhappy about anything. And so, you know, there's disappointment, and then you quickly turn to kind of rolling up your sleeves and saying, well, this isn't how we would have wanted this to play out. We wish that it would have been handled differently, but it's what the hand we were dealt, and now we've got to move on and make the best of it.
Did you ever, at any time when it first came down and the dust settled, did you ever think about the fact that Baylor could be relegated to being outside of the Autonomy 5?
Well, we certainly looked at all the alternatives out there, but we were deeply committed, Mac Rhodes and me, you know, we worked with some of our board members closely to do what we needed to ensure that we stayed in a Power 5 conference and make sure we've positioned ourselves to do that. I think the success our athletics programs have had over the last number of years certainly helped us to be positioned for that. And, you know, given the alternatives that were out there when the dust settled, I think the one that we ended up with adding the 4 schools positions us well and gives us actually more opportunity going forward as we continue to see how this landscape in college athletics evolves in the next several years.
I asked Bob Bowlesby this on Saturday and curious your perspective on it. Does it feel maybe not so much as you're expanding the Big 12, but maybe even like starting a new conference just because the foundations will be so much different with the 2 teams that are leaving gone?
I think every time there's a conference realignment, and obviously there have been several over the last 10 or 15 years, there is certainly a piece of sort of creating a new conference, but I think you continue to have elements of the original conference. Of course, I was a part of the Big 8 conference when I was in a student athlete at Oklahoma State, and so there are sort of still core elements of that in this sort of newly reconstituted Big 12, and so I think those threads and themes of that original Big 8 conference through the original Big 12 continue to be there. And I think it just shows kind of the strength and resilience of the conference, that it continues to be successful. It continues to bring in really good new members. And I'm excited about BYU and Cincinnati and UCF and Houston. They bring a lot of interesting things to the conference and things we didn't have. And obviously they're performing well right now on the football field, and so we love to see that, and we'll be paying a lot of attention to them and cheering for them along the way.
What was Friday like once, and like I even said Friday, Dr. Livingston, I said that even though that was the ceremonial day, the Big 12's already 2, 3, 4 weeks already down the road ahead of where they are, but they had to kind of have that day. What do you think that meant to the 8 remaining teams, and what did it mean to the incoming teams, and how much do you share with the other presidents or whoever else that was involved in all of that?
Well, certainly the 8 of us had, you know, regular conversations about where we were and where we needed to go, and frankly about sticking together, and that we were all going to be a lot better off if we worked together, if we maintained the core integrity of the conference. And you know, I think after we completed the vote that Friday morning, there was certainly a sense of relief that we had turned that page and now we could look forward. But I think there was also a sense of joy that we had brought in some great teams and that we had really strengthened the conference and positioned ourselves well for the future. So, we haven't been together face to face really since, I guess, last February or March in 2020. So all of this has been done remotely. So I do think when we finally get together face to face, which I think we're going to do within about a month or so, it'll be great to see everybody and to really celebrate the outcome of this.
This doesn't have to do with expansion, but I am curious, not only with your background in academia, obviously, but as a former student athlete, as you mentioned, what are your thoughts on the current lives of student athletes in terms of name, image, likeness? I mean, all the moving parts that have been going on, because, that's something that you would have benefited from. So you have that perspective, but also just as somebody in administration in college athletics these days, or in just the universities period, there's a lot to keep up with. You guys are probably afraid to check your phones every morning, I would think.
Well, you do wake up, and every day is a new day, and you're very generous for thinking someone would have paid me in college for my name, image, and likeness. So thanks for saying that. College athletics has just changed so dramatically, and I think, frankly, the NCAA and all has been a little slow to react and adapt to that. And obviously, I'm on the NCAA Constitution Commission as well, that's looking at how we position ourselves going forward to address some of the challenges and issues that we've had and how we govern intercollegiate athletics going forward. And, I think we've got to learn how to adapt while continuing. And I think this theme comes out a lot as I talk to presidents around the country, how you maintain the integrity of collegiate athletics where there is still a significant academic component to what we do. And certainly some of the things that are going on with name, image, and likeness put some stress on that, but I think we're all deeply committed to maintaining the integrity of the academic component of college athletics. And so I think we can do that, and we're all committed to that.
You mentioned you're the governance committee, you're on that, going forward, trying to find new rules for NCAA governance and what that means. Is one of the things you guys need to work on is finding a way for the NCAA to be proactive other than reactive, because these last few years, it's just been one reaction to things one after the other, as if they weren't going to lose cases. It seems like their preparation was, well, we're going to win no matter what. And then when they lost, they didn't have a plan B.
Well, it's really clear as we listen to feedback that we've got to simplify the structure and make the organization more nimble and more able to look forward and be proactive in addressing things that are on the horizon. And I think it happens with many organizations. You make rules and you put structures in place as issues arise, and then you never sort of go back and quit doing things that maybe don't need to be done anymore because the world has changed. And so it is, I think, a good opportunity to kind of wipe the slate clean and say, what do we need? What kind of structure, what kind of processes do we need given the dynamic world that we're in now? And to really try to simplify and really reduce the bureaucracy within the NCAA to help create a sort of a cleaner model for governance of college athletics going forward.
I'm asking you this because I don't know, and I know I could look it up, and I have it on a couple of occasions. But when there was a lot of discussion about what might happen when the SEC, the Texas and Oklahoma story came up, was the AAU value. Is Baylor getting closer to being a part of that? And what do you have to do if you are going to be a part of that?
Yeah. So for those listening that may not know, the AAU is a group of kind of the top academic institutions in the country, particularly with regard to their research profile. As most people know that follow Baylor, we are in the process. One of our goals in our strategic plan, Illuminate, is to become a Research One university. And we're getting very close to that. We anticipate by 2024 having reached that Research One category. There is still a large leap to then be an AAU institution. There are many really great universities in this country that are not AAU institutions. And to some extent, there's certainly metrics associated with that, but the AAU is also a self-sustaining body, so they select people into the group, and then they can also select people out. Nebraska used to be an AAU school. They are not anymore. And so there are some classifications like that are purely based on kind of the metrics and the numbers, which is kind of what the Research One categorization is. There are others like AAU, the numbers really matter, but you also have to get sort of voted in to be a part of that. So it is not one of our goals right now, because we really have got to focus on our Research One aspirations and attain those. Once we get to that point, we'll look at kind of what the next step in those efforts are to continue to grow our academic profile.
But I did see this, and this is nice news, that number 75 at National University's U.S. News and World Report. How much, obviously, proud are you of that?
Well, we're really excited about that. I mean, we've been working so hard over the last several years to work on retention rates, graduation rates of our students, to support the work our faculty are doing to really grow our academic reputation. And so when it's hard to move in U.S. News and World Report, but to see that movement really affirm the great work that our faculty are doing, our staff are doing, and the progress that we're making really on a national level to not just improve the quality of what's going on at Baylor, but also to ensure that people out there know that that's the quality of work that we're doing here.
President Livingstone, what was it like to be at McLean Stadium on Saturday and see, thousands of fans also in attendance?
Well, it was fabulous to be there. After last year where we were at 25% capacity, it was great to be there. We pulled 9,000 student tickets, which was great. They were so enthusiastic. The Baylor family came around. It's a local community. Was wonderful to see everybody there for a non-conference game. And, of course, our next home game's with Iowa State. That should be a really fabulous game. And they're ranked, and hopefully we'll be 3-0 at that point in time. And so it'll be a great game. So thrilled to see everybody come out. Hope they will continue to come out as the year progresses. But can't say enough about how happy we were after the hard year we had last year in terms of being able to have people at our athletic events. So it's great to see. Our volleyball team's going to be in town this weekend, too. So they've been on the road against some really tough competition. So we're excited to have them at home this weekend as well. And, of course, our soccer team had a tough match last night but was able to tie Oregon. So lots of good athletic competition going on that we encourage people to come out and watch.
I mentioned the U.S. News and World Report, and we do have some breaking news in college football. With USC has fired their head coach, Clay Helton. We'll have that more on that here in a moment. Great colleges to work for. 10 consecutive years. I know a lot of times we can look at this and look at the front porch of the university, but that means that those who are there love to be there. How important is that you know that is a part of what you have, and not just get it, but get it for 10 consecutive years?
Well, again, it just says so much about the work that our staff do to support our faculty and students, the commitment that our faculty and staff have to this institution. It says a lot about our folks in human resources. Cheryl Gotchis, our Vice President for Human Resources, our Provost, Nancy Brickhouse, and the tremendous work they do to support our faculty and staff. And I think it goes to our Christian mission. I mean, we care deeply about the people in our organization, whether it's our students, faculty, or staff, and we want them to love working here, and we certainly want to create an atmosphere where they can live out their passions and enjoy doing it. And, we are always looking for ways to do that better, but certainly Great Colleges to Work For affirms that for the most part we do it well, and we continue even from that survey to say, hey, what can we do better? So we were thrilled to see that again, and especially that survey was actually done when we were going through COVID, and that was a hard time for everybody. And so again, I think it says a lot about the Baylor family and the way we all came together and supported one another, even as we have been going through the challenges of a pandemic.
You and Paul discussed being proactive in terms of the NCAA a few moments ago. The Big 12 had to be proactive in going out to expand. We had Commissioner Bowlesby on the show, the pregame show on Saturday, and he's hinted in various interviews that the dust hasn't completely settled. Yes, the Big 12 is adding 4 new teams officially, but they're keeping their eyes open. Is that kind of the way that you feel that the Big 12 is not necessarily done? They're going to continue to be proactive rather than reactive?
I think that we know with some of the TV rights coming up in the coming years and just the rapidly changing environment for college athletics that we should never sort of sit back and relax and think that we don't need to keep looking to the future and saying what's in the best interest of the conference, what's in the best interest of our universities, and then frankly, what's in the best interest of our student athletes. And so we will continue to see what the landscape is looking like and see if there are opportunities to continue to strengthen the conference. And I think we're all committed to that. And, these first schools that we added certainly prepare us well for whatever might happen in the next few years.
There have been so many things that since you arrived, that I remember the time we sat down in your office at Pat Neff Hall and interviewed you, and you gave me that lengthy time, that you've had to deal with whatever's gone on with Baylor and athletics or even the university. And then, of course, COVID, which was something that people had never really dealt with before. And there's also changes of what you have when it comes to policy or philosophies on campus because of what we've seen around the country with a lot of social injustice and everything else. When you go about making decisions to try to be inclusive, I'm sure that it's not everybody's happy about it. How do you juggle that of what is right, what you want it to be like, and also knowing that there are people who don't like change?
Well, these issues of diversity and equity and inclusion are challenging on every college campus because you have diverse student populations and diverse faculty and staff, and then your constituents, your alumni base, who sometimes don't look exactly like your student population because your student populations become more and more diverse over time. When we work on these issues, really any difficult issue, we really try to always go back to our core mission of preparing men and women for worldwide leadership and service by integrating Christian commitment and academic excellence within a caring community. And so when you start talking about diversity issues, equity issues, some of these really things that can be very controversial in our world today, we say at our core, we're a Christian university. We're seeking to create a caring Christian community. So what does that mean for the diverse populations on our campus? And how do we live out our love of neighbor, our belief in the worth and value of every individual in the eyes of God, and what does that mean? So we really seek to tie those back to our Christian mission and really biblical values that are important to us. And I think in some ways that gives us a way to frame that and ground it that helps us in ways that secular universities do not have the ability to do. It's not always easy. We certainly have folks with very diverse opinions on these things, but at the end of the day, we're seeking to live out our mission of being a Christian caring community in the best way we can.
Dr. Livingstone, I want to relay this text from Shooter TX. It says, Dr. Livingstone won me over. A big fan during her good cop, bad cop during the Senate hearing. She and Mac were perfect. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask him whether I was the good cop or the bad cop, although I probably know. But
no, he said, FYI, she was the good cop. Mac brought the hammer. So that was. Yeah, and when you guys did that, some of the responses, oh my God, what are you doing? Do you feel like that was something you needed to do to be on record, or did you feel like that made any difference whatsoever with the legislature?
I think when you're asked to come and speak to the legislature, I think you need to do it out of respect for them. And I think it was helpful to educate about what happened, how it was going to impact our communities. I mean, when we talk about these issues of conference expansion or realignment, we oftentimes only think about the impact it's going to have on our athletic program or our university or our student athletes. And I think that allowed us to say, this has a huge impact on our communities that we're in, the economic impact, jobs. It has a big impact across the state. And so I think it was a good opportunity to tell that broader story, and that we need to look at these issues, step back and look at them from a broader perspective, because they do have huge impacts on jobs and people outside our institutions, and we oftentimes don't sort of weigh that as we think about some of the things that we do. And so I think there was value in it for that reason. I know I've heard from a number of the legislators that were there since then, and they really appreciated learning more about kind of how these issues affect the broader state and economy.
I know that your daughter's a part of that volleyball as a graduate assistant. You watch their schedule: number 7, number 2, number 7, number 7. Florida and Tennessee, and I guess Pittsburgh. A couple of teams with rankings change a little bit. Playing Florida a couple of different times and having their success. How much football runs athletics because of the revenue, and men's basketball and what they did with the national championship. Your thoughts about watching what they're doing in the volleyball team?
Well, we are huge volleyball fans, of course, after having watched our daughter play, and then we've got such a talented team here at Baylor. And I'm telling you, they have a gauntlet to run this fall with the preseason schedule that they planned. But in volleyball, those are the kinds of teams you've got to beat in postseason to make it to the Final Four and to the national championship. And so they know that they've got to prepare for that. And within the conference, you get to play Texas. But that level of play at that top 10 level, we don't get as much of in the conference. If you're playing in the Big Ten, you get it every single weekend almost. And so they know they've got to go out and play the best if they want to be the best. And so it's been good for them. They struggled a little bit the first couple of weekends, but this last weekend against Florida, they stepped up and played great. And we're kind of excited. Thursday night, Shelby's Rice Owls are coming to town and going to play our Baylor Bears. And so Shelby will have mixed emotions as she sits on the Baylor sidelines, but we're thrilled to have them coming. It'll be fun to have the team back in Waco to get to watch them play.
Thank you for your time. I know you've got a lot on your plate. We appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Oh, always glad to visit. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
You too, Dr. Linda Livingstone, Baylor University president, on many things, not just athletics, not just expansion, but other specific sports, but also the academic part of it, as Craig even mentioned, the academia as well. And during that time, we were talking to Dr. Livingstone, a couple of 2 or 3 notes in sports. Southern Cal, as we mentioned, fired Clay Helton. This coming after the loss. We brought this up coming after the loss to Stanford. Not sure. I don't know if they've named an interim. I'm not sure. Graham Harrell. Is it Graham Harrell?
No, it's
not Graham Harrell, the offensive coordinator.
Dante Williams, the cornerback coach.
Okay. Ooh.
And he's the associate head coach.
Okay.
He was probably that anyway, but he's the cornerbacks coach. But yeah, Dante Williams.
We were just mentioning that. Of course, it's a hot topic on the chat room as well about how they just, we discussed this a little bit ago. I mean, the high expectations. They got what looks like a favorable schedule. And, man, you're talking about 2 games into the season?
Well, I mean, you can make the argument he shouldn't have been coaching this season anyways.
Yeah.
Do you realize how hot
that means you made the mistake to bring him back.
Well,
you're admitting to that.
Well, duh, they're firing him in week 2. Yeah, I mean, clearly they made but I mean, again, the buyout money and just he's a nice guy and, hey, they have a little bit of mojo going. Let's see, let's just give it one more go around. And that was bad enough on Saturday night that they can't drag it out anymore. Like they cannot do it, or they will have a full-on civil war in Los Angeles on USC's campus over the lack of decision. So it was something they had to do. Like I said earlier, when Keyshawn Johnson starts popping off and you have your big alums who are clearly unhappy, I mean, that's not good for recruiting. That's not good for fans. That's not good for fundraising. That's not good for anything. So they had no choice. I mean, it probably did come too late. But to do it any longer and risk them going out, this weekend and getting throttled by – I mean, I don't know who's on their schedule moving forward. But, I'm not surprised at all. I'm surprised it actually took till Monday at nearly 4:30 for, I guess, 3:30 their time for it to actually happen. I was expecting it like bright and early this morning because it was that obvious to me on Saturday night that he had to be fired. So they released a statement from the AD. Said he informed Helton this afternoon of the decision about making a change in leadership, called Helton one of the finest human beings he's met in the industry and a tremendous role model and mentor to their young men, and appreciates all the years of service and wishes him nothing but the best. But he says, as I committed to upon my arrival at USC the past 2 off seasons, we provided every resource necessary for football to compete for championships. The added resources carried significantly increased expectations for the team's performance, and it is already evident that despite the enhancement, those expectations would not be met without a change in leadership.
Well,
so there you go.
There you go. Clay Helton out at USC, the quarterback's coach. Williams takes over. Not sure what the role will be for the offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell.
I'm not shocked at all that Graham was not named interim head coach. I mean, first of all, he was not the associate head coach. So second of all, I mean, he's not really proven that he's ready to handle the reins of USC, I don't think. I mean, he's been a good little coordinator, but many USC fans don't think he's doing that good of a job through 2 games. So, I don't know that would have been a move that would have been very well received just based off of social media. But, the coaching search, that's going to be fascinating. That's not going to happen for a while, but that's going to be fascinating because that's a big gig.
That's a big boy deal. And now, one of the things Bruce Feldman mentioned in this, he'd been on the hot seat really since 2018.
Yeah, I mean,
so you're talking about 4 signing classes, four classes. And you're on the hot seat. You don't think they've been using that against them, even though they get what they want a lot of times?
But their recruiting has not been good. I mean, like they've not gotten the guys that they need.
Well, because no one wants to go there thinking he's going to be fired any of the last 4 years.
And the thing is, there's probably 4 or 5 guys at jobs that USC just can't go. Like they can't go get Saban or Dabo or somebody like that. But outside of that, they can pretty much have anyone they want.
You know who would be available probably sooner rather than you expect? Jaguars don't look very good.
Urban.
But Pete Thamel already with an early list for USC. So, I mean, who knows if they will even speak to half these people. But y'all want to hear the early list for USC just so some fan bases will start to get nervous and have to go through this whole thing again. And look, Baylor's been through it. We've seen this with countless coaches. But early list for USC, James Franklin. Makes a lot of sense, right? Mm-hmm. Matt Campbell.
Yep.
Bill O'Brien.
Yep.
Luke Fickell, PJ Fleck, Mario Cristobal, which I don't know why Cristobal would leave Oregon, but Greg Schiano and Tony Elliott.
Elliott from Clemson, who's been very loyal.
He also said former coaches who could be sought include Chris Peterson and Bob Stoops. So that's just Pete Thamel saying, his list. There you go. There's Armstrong's got the tweet up. That was from just 2 minutes ago. But there's one writer's early list for USC.
Now, I'm not off the top of my head, but there's some sort of connection. I've seen James Franklin's name attached to USC before, and I don't know what it is. I know, Craig, you're looking up his bio. Matt Campbell, Bill O'Brien, I don't know if that would incite. I mean, I don't know if that would give them a jolt or not. Obviously, he's now with the New England, Alabama. But, that's the jump. Go to Alabama, restart your career. He's done it with a lot of different people.
Luke Fickell is where?
Cincinnati.
Where did Mike Bone come from?
Cincinnati.
Who hired Luke Fickell? Mike Bone.
And what I learned, even at not just the college level, I learned this eventually at the high school level. I know this is like but when a coaching a change happens, and you sit there and this guy makes this. Where did somebody who is the superintendent? Where was he before, or a principal, or both? And who have they hired before? And that's the same thing with college football as well. Tony Elliott at Clemson. Schiano's been back and forth in from the all over the place. There's your buddy PJ Fleck, Paul Cristobal. That would be something that you have USC. No matter what Oregon just did, I love what I heard from Cristobal after they beat Ohio State. I mean, that was a huge win for them. Just the name being on this list, though, has got to be annoying for Ducks fans.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. That's why I was bringing it up, because it's like if you're an Iowa State fan, it's like Matt Campbell again, like for every job. But, the thing is like this isn't just some job. This is Southern Cal. I mean, this is one of the top probably 5 jobs, if not a top 3 job in the entire country that's about to open up. We saw what Texas did. They moved very quickly after Herman because it was clear that Del Conte had been setting that up for months and months and months, kind of like their exit from the Big 12.
Here's, you're right.
Yeah. Well, kind of sly, that guy. But, that's going to be a very intriguing job to see who emerges.
From the 310 to give us more insight on USC, then we'll break and come back with more. Helton, would have been fired a couple of years ago, but school was under interim president. Wouldn't make the cut on coach or AD until new president came in. Came in from North Carolina, immediately fired the AD. Fans expected Mike Bohn to be involved in hiring the new coach. Then last year was just enough to scrape by because they won despite heinous play and pandemic. You can definitely expect him gone in less dramatic turnaround. Craig is totally right about the angry fan base. That was a text he sent us before the news came out. Then this, tens of thousands of empty seats in the House. Remember, they had to fire Lane Kiffin under such huge pressure that it was done at 3 a.m. on a tarmac at LAX. Immediately live tweet announced, new president transition was the only reason that Clay Helton survived as long as he did, thanks to the 310.
That was the joke going around on Saturday night, was get ready for Lane Kiffin Part 2. He's not even going to make it off on the plane, and turns out that it wasn't exactly like that. It lasted another day or so, but they made a quick decision. It's the decision they had to make. I mean, they had to after Saturday night.
Well, and the tens of thousands of empty seats is a big thing. Now, look, it's California. Pandemic rules are a little bit different than they are here. But the bottom line is that if you're not putting butts in seats, the buyout money and all that starts to become a wash. You think about, okay, we've got to pay a coach $25 million buyout, but if we kept him, we're going to lose $35 million in ticket sales because nobody's coming to this game, even if we had free hot dogs and sodas. It's just not going to happen.
And donor money and that kind of thing is hurt too.
It all comes out in the wash eventually. And while the buyouts are silly, I've talked about it many times, but sometimes you just have to pull that trigger and go, okay, here it's it. And Clay Helton is going to be on another staff, and he'll be well respected as an assistant coach wherever he goes, but USC was not the job for him, and they waited probably too long to do it, and because of that, they probably missed out on, because you mentioned Urban Meyer. I think the Cons will do whatever they can to keep Urban Meyer if they like him. Jacksonville looks bad, but we expected him to be bad. So
it's going to be more Urban than it is going to be them, in my opinion. It's like, does his heart hold up this time when they are 0-6 and getting their brains beat in? Because they're a bad football team. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence didn't polish in that turd. I'm sorry, but in 2 years, okay, it could turn into something. But is Urban going to stick through losing and having to build from scratch, basically? That's where I'm unsure.
Now, he did say something on Hard Knocks that I thought was interesting, in that he said, they caught it on the open mic when he and McCarthy were talking. Urban Meyer, Mike McCarthy said, hey, how's it going? He goes, you know what? It's great. It's just football. I don't have any recruiting. I don't have any donor meetings. I don't have all this.
That's true.
The dog and pony show stuff they had to do. So I wonder, and again, Urban is, concerned about his health, supposedly.
Right.
Those are kind of things that would give you a headache, and so that's why I tend to think it makes sense. And they probably could have gotten Urban Meyer a couple years ago had they done it, and they probably should have. But
now, how many this is from Timothy. Since 1979, that's 42 years, Southern Cal has now had 9 head coaches. And I wonder if we went back among all the other, let's say, top 30, 40 teams, and his point was that Iowa's had 2, Hayden Fry, and then obviously with what they have now.
With Kirk Ferentz.
Who's been fantastic and steady as you could be. You're starting to see, for example, the team I love. That was all about, continuity. And then once Osborne retired, then you had, here we go. They're just split. There's just, continuity matters, even if things aren't good, if you can keep it somewhat within the same system. Now, sometimes you got to jumpstart a place. This will be interesting. James Franklin and USC's been connected. I looked at his Wikipedia page. I haven't seen much what the connection might be. If I'm USC from JS, I'm going hard for the Iowa State coach. And then Tim mentioned, it's the same colors, Iowa State and Southern Cal.
Same damn uniforms practically. When Iowa State unveiled their new uniforms or whatever, what was that, 3 or 4 years ago maybe? They were like a complete USC ripoff. They were the exact same except for the logo. That was it. I mean, even the shoulder, it was almost dead on. So yeah, I mean, he would basically just be swapping helmet logos. But he's the guy who is going to be mentioned for every single big job that opens up. And it's been happening, but now, it's one thing to say, if this opens up or that opens up, but now we're talking about USC. That's a little bit different than just, a I guess, a tier 2 school. We're starting to get down to like the top 10 programs of all time type of a job. So I'm not sure what his preference is. I know Iowa State fans will say he's going to be there forever or whatever. And that very well may be true, but, I mean, he's definitely going to be one of those that gets a look. There is no question about that. It's just going to be how interested is he in listening and how interested is James Franklin. USC fans out there or somebody that would know, could you please explain the long-lasting James Franklin USC connection and why that has been a thing for so long? Because I'm not sure exactly why
well, it just
either.
could be that he's kind of a
right.
I
mean, is it just the fact that he's a popular coach and you think he'd be good there? If that's so, I totally get that. But if there's another connection that I just am unaware of, I'd like to know that. It'd be interesting information.
From Shooter TX, by the way, combined USC opening with Matt Campbell, lackluster responses on today's conference call. I'll give odds that Campbell is going to the Trojans. That's just a thought. Okay, let's break. Let's come back. Clay Helton out at Southern Cal. We'll hear from Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, on many things at 5 what time, Paul? 5 or 5:15? What did we decide on that?
5.
5 o'clock with Dave Aranda. So let's do this. 254-339-1122. Since we started this show on April 6th of 2020, then we went to YouTube thanks to Armstrong. We were in the studio. It was a year ago this weekend that this studio was launched after doing the show from the second floor of Paul's house for many months. YouTube exploded. One of the reasons it did is we're going to cover Baylor. We're going to cover Texas high school football. We're going to cover the Cowboys, but it's because of nationally what it's brought to you as well and vice versa. And so we will get to that and your reactions to it and your wish list of who you think might be next. 254-339-1122.
And I'll leave you with this. I'm sure some of y'all are aware of the website coacheshotseat.com. I like to just go and take a look at it every once in a while. And, there's no exact science on the heat of a seat, right? But it was pretty clear that Clay Helton was in the danger zone on Saturday night. And as of today, Coach's Hot Seat, and they probably have had him for a while, but they had Clay Helton as the number 1 hot seat in college football. And now he's done. So on to the next one. That's a big gig opening up. Some of the other names that are on there, Dino Babers at Syracuse, Scott Frost, obviously, Harbaugh at Michigan, and Holgerson at Houston. There's others, but Helton was the number 1, and now he has fallen off the list.
I saw this, and I just lost the text or chat. We got to break. We have to break. I'm going to go buy my season tickets again.
Oh, okay.
From somebody that follows USC. I think it was Walter Stokes.
Fight on.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want and need to be, and maybe used to be. As you get older, testosterone levels inside of your body can change. They can get lower and lower and lower. And it happens. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Sex drive, sleep habits, and energy. It can happen. Maybe 1 or 2 or maybe all 3 of the symptoms can hit you, and it's something that just inside your body, testosterone can change. You can have a great diet, you can exercise, you can sleep well. All of that can still be good, and you could still have issues that come with symptoms from low testosterone because of sex drive, maybe just not the same of what you need it and used to be. Dr. Kent Petty, here's what you do. Go to pettycliniclot.com. There's an email and phone number, top left-hand corner. Send them or call them or whatever you do by contacting them and tell them I sent you. Tell them Smokey sent you. pettyclinicalot.com will set you up with an appointment to get your blood work. The lab results come back. Dr. Petty looks at them, and if your testosterone levels are too low, he can put you on a program to help you increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man that you want and maybe used to be at pettyclinicalot.com.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
All right, we mentioned Haynes King, A&M quarterback, out with what is a crack in his lower leg. It sounds like, I'm not a doctor, but like a stress fracture of some point. He's out. A&M moves on without him. Arkansas stormed the field after they beat Texas on Saturday night. You know, you can't enjoy yourself anymore. They got fined $100,000 by the SEC for storming the field. And by the way, if they would have beat Texas this weekend, they would storm it again.
Yeah, they would. And, there's always good social media debate on, like, when it's cool to storm the field and when it's not. And whenever there's a program who has had success in the past, people typically frown on them storming the field. But there's a really cool video that Arkansas put out. But they had a great one on the Texas is back thing on Saturday that they had rip-roaring and ready to go right after that win was over. But Arkansas had a video that I saw today, and it's Sam Pittman in the waning moments, and a police officer comes over to him, his security, and basically tells him, like, hey, it's like they're going to rush the field. And, Pittman's just like, it's okay. We'll let them take down the post. They'll fine us $100,000, but we'll just, get the Texas players out of here and blah, blah, blah. So I think Arkansas was more than happy to write a $100,000 check. It was totally worth it in their book. And seeing the Sam Pittman clip, it was like, you know what? I'm all good with it.
I can tell you there was a very rich man that was there at that game that will write the check for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's question about that. USC should have hired Norm Chow. What about how they screwed over Ed Orgeron? Chris Peterson, no, he quit on us 5 years ago. Peterson likes driving to work on a boat, lives on Lake Washington, still has a gig in the athletic department.
I will say that's a beautiful area of the country. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Peterson was totally happy there. And, who knows what USC's interest will be. I mean, there's some names out there, and they're one of those programs that you think a guy's like, no, he's never leaving. For that job, there are guys that will leave where they are no matter how comfortable they are. But I could see Peterson in Washington. I mean, he's not the most attractive candidate right now, I'll tell you that much. Old Softy, not happy with the Huskies.
Yeah.
They are in a bad spot right now. If anything, Peterson doesn't need to be worried about USC. He needs to worry about what he's going to do with his coordinators.
Well, no, Jimmy Lake is the head coach of Washington right now.
Golly.
Peterson's, like you said, he's on his boat going to the, his BS job, as I say.
That was under the radar. It really was kind of quietly.
I just completely blacked out on that.
Okay.
My apologies. Yeah.
All right.
Jimmy Lake is in trouble, though. He needs to fix that quickly. My bad.
Players wanted Orgeron. USC regretted not hiring him. Players rallied around Helton. They felt they had to hire him. So here we go with your calls. Clay Helton out at Southern Cal.
All right, let's go to Los Angeles. Walter in L.A. on the firing of Clay Helton. You're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing great, Walter. Appreciate it.
Just got called onto you guys' show maybe 3 weeks ago. And it's interesting. I have to hide because I actually work at UCLA, so I'm in enemy territory in the corner. The fans been trying to get rid of Clay Helton for a while. I just heard he was just he was in so good with the higher ups that wanted to keep the power, and they knew they can always control him and kind of run the program how they wanted to run. That's why you kept seeing them weird hirings like Hayton and Lynn Swan, not really football ADs or true athletic directors, just pretty much yes men. LA kind of is we could be a little slimy out here, a little, it's LA.
Right.
But yeah, I'm hoping we can get Franklin from Penn State. I think that'll help be good.
What is the attraction? Walter, what's the attraction with him? Is there any, I don't see any connection with him. He's a good coach, obviously, with what he's done in his career. Very dynamic guy. Is that just, but I've seen his name at USC linked there a couple of different times.
Well, for us, like I'm from Compton, LA. For us, like true LA USC fans, it kind of takes out the the buddy club where you kind of, it's just like our AD that we got from Cincinnati. He'll give us an outsider's point of view, won't just keep status quo, the same type of player that plays the same type of position. And we just need to be more thinking like how the rest of the country is thinking. You have all our good quarterbacks in the South now, Alabama, Clemson, and, and in Central and Ohio State. And we didn't even
we lost you.
Oh, man.
We lost you.
Yeah, we lost him. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. 254-339-1122. I think Walter's also the one that said he wanted to go buy season tickets now that this news is out there.
Walter, shout out to you. And hopefully that was just your connection dropping and not somebody at UCLA going, hey, wait a second, are you talking about the USC head coaching job over there? So hopefully your phone's all good, and hopefully we hear from you again as well. I get what he's saying, though. It's just a change in kind of the patriarchy, or the hierarchy that's kind of always been in place there. A little bit of a shaking up would make sense.
I'll just say the best thing that they did when they hired Mike Bohn, and look, Mike Bohn may not be the right guy for that job 10 years from now, but he's the right guy for the job in that he's an athletic director. I think that's a thing that a lot of schools make. A&M did that for years, where they were just hiring old coaches or, famous athletes from there to be their athletic director, and it put them. That's why the gap between Texas and A&M was so huge, because Texas had DeLoss Dodds, who was the athletic director to end all athletic directors. USC was hiring, Pat Hayden and Mike Garrett and all these guys who, and Lynn Swan, who all used to be, star athletes, but they're not necessarily athletic directors. If you want, surgery, you hire a surgeon, not just a doctor. You hire a guy who knows that.
But it's a place where stars and
you don't hire Lynn Swan to perform the surgery.
So hire an athletic director. That's what you need to do.
Here's from Dan Davis. Dan Davis on the text. Peterson kicked Orgeron's ass when he was at Boise State. All right, well, again, he cut out of the business. Maybe he needed a couple of years to kind of take a deep breath. Who knows? 254-339-1122.
He's getting a phone call. Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt he'll probably get a phone call. Just a matter of how much he enjoys, retirement or not coaching.
Yeah. All right, Howard in Oregon on USC.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, that USC job is a death trap. Kiffin, Sarkisian, now Helton. It's a nightmare. Here's the deal on that from what I've read in the past. They've been really upset with the University of Oregon coming down there and stealing all the 5-star, 4-star recruits in California. And Thibodeau was a prime example of that. He's a South Central guy, and they thought he was going to go to USC, and make them, bring them back up to the top of the world, and he ends up in Oregon, and that's a big concern. Those schools like UCLA in basketball and SC in football, they expect championships, and when coaches don't produce, they go bye-bye, for one reason or another. Now, like I've told you guys, I'm an Arizona fan. Expectations in football are just awful. But not in those schools. That's the way it is. You better win, and you better win big,
Yep.
That's all I got to say about that.
All right. Thanks, Howard.
Great to hear from you again, as always, Howard in Oregon. Thank you. Yeah, if they're taking your guys. By the way, Phil Knight might have something to say about Cristobal and where he might go next. Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely, especially since they like him. Let's go to...
Well, he's right, though. Oregon has gotten a lot of influence in California, especially Southern California, and I'm sure that's not something the Trojans fans are happy with seeing.
But you know who else does? Everybody else. All the big schools are going to, look at the big quarterbacks.
Them, though.
The two best quarterbacks in the SEC, JT Daniels and Bryce Young, right now, where are they from? They're from California.
S. Akbar, James Franklin should be the number one choice. Another one, James Franklin. They need to call Franklin. Robert Pesaturo. Franklin, real good candidate.
I'm curious, what do Penn State fans think about that? Penn State fans, if you're out there, what do you think about, because you've heard the James Franklin to USC stuff for like a good 2, 3, 4 years now at this point. It's been a constant rumor. Even when things were going well in Happy Valley, it's still like, oh, James Franklin, USC. So I'm curious what Penn State fans think on the possibilities of, how they would, would there be some that are like, you know what, we kind of need to change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, I'm sure that would be a minority because he's a successful head coach. But if you're out there, PSU fans, holler at us.
By the way, Williams, I don't think is the quarterback coach. I think Graham Harrell does both. Is he a defensive back?
Cornerback.
Sorry,
I probably said that too fast.
Yeah, you said it. He's a defensive back and recruiting. Coach, he's pretty much gave them a little bit of a jolt when it comes to recruiting, which, of course, they needed.
Yeah. All right, Don in Waco. Don, thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. It's been a while since I talked to you guys, but I think we're missing the big boat here. How refreshing is it that our coach is not being mentioned for any opening? Can you imagine if Rule's still with us and Franklin's leaving? The bottom line is it's not good for recruiting if the coach is always mentioned year after year after year, for openings around the country, and, stability. Look at Alabama. Look at Clemson. They're so stable there with their head coaches. There's a lot to be said about that. But, for me, it's refreshing. No one's mentioning Dave Arandas as a head coach replacement.
Yeah, thanks, John.
That's true. Yeah. I will tell you, though, that there are quite a few LSU fans out there who miss him dearly. They miss him. They miss Joe Brady. And I don't know how long. Orgeron seems to be on a very warm seat right now. So, that would be curious. But no, you're right. I mean, the Matt Rule stuff was exhausting. It really was. It was every time an NFL job opened up, which was, 7 jobs a year, maybe on average, or 5-6 jobs a year on average open up. So for like 2-3 years, you had to worry about both New York teams, if they ever had an opening, and then really everybody else. And obviously he lands in Carolina, of all places. So, that was something that he managed pretty well. But like towards the end, especially that last stretch where they were preparing for the Sugar Bowl and the Jets were open and then the Panthers came swooping in, like at that point it just felt like, man, this is too much. Like it's too often, it's too constant, it's too damaging for the program to constantly have to address that, no matter how many times you say you're never going anywhere. And then, of course, you as fans, you can't believe it because you know he's going to go somewhere eventually, And so it's like, it's not that he's dishonest, but like with James Franklin and Penn State, I'm sure that's probably annoying, but in Penn State probably feels a lot better about being able to keep that secure. Now with USC open, again, I would like to hear from a Penn State fan on how they feel about that.
Well, let's not forget, Penn State's a pretty big boy program.
That's what I'm saying. I just said that, and I guess I didn't come across clearly, but they're a different story because they are a program that's on that level. So they are different than Baylor getting poached by the NFL, of course, but I don't know how the fans feel about that.
From Chad Brendel, who we had on Friday, who covers Cincinnati, he's got a girl in a hammock swaying back and forth. It's a GIF, right? Me reading the Lazy Hot Takery right now, of course, with Luke Fickell's name connected to the AD.
But going back to that call, Matt Campbell, well, I want to address this call. Matt Campbell, that's got to be frustrating for Iowa State fans, constantly hearing about him for every single job that's opening up. It is draining, so you're right. It's refreshing to not hear Dave Aranda being thrown around left and right or being thrown around immediately when Clay Helton gets fired.
All right, let's go to Temple. I did not. The name didn't come through. It says Keratin. I doubt that's your name. I think that's something that's in your hair. But let's go to Temple. You're on the air on Sikkim 365.
It's Jaredin, actually.
There we go. Go ahead.
Missed of me, I'm sorry. But, I see, with the firing and, a lot of people looking at, the hirings and whatnot and not wanting them to go back to, USC roots and whatnot. But I see, a lot of names that are being thrown around and a Del Rio name, Jack Del Rio being thrown around, former, USC alum. And I see the problem with the recent hirings being that we've been going a lot of offensive, head coach hirings, with Kiffin, Sarkisian, and Helton that, and seeing how our defense has been, falling quite a bit in recent years, and maybe hiring a Jack Del Rio or something that would bolster like our defensive name, even though he's got the same, a lot of people don't want them to go in-house, but maybe a Del Rio could help bolster the defense that we've been needing so badly as of late.
The thing about Jack Del Rio, and I've always liked him, and actually one time had an opportunity to interview him. He's now with Washington. He's their defensive coordinator, so obviously a coaching job at his alma mater. But we've had some people debating on the text line about whether or not you should go do what you have been at the times when you've gone and got alums, and it hasn't worked out. Charles White.
Look, Nick Saban didn't go to Alabama. Dabo Swinney didn't go to Clemson.
Yeah, I don't. But Jack Del Rio, he's coached in the NFL now, though. Let's see. Look at his.
I'll tell you this. He's
been in the NFL every year since 1997.
But he's a USC guy.
Yeah.
So, and he's been up for the job before.
58 years old, so he's not too past that number.
No, I think he would definitely have interest. Would USC have interest in him? I think you're right. It probably is time to shake the deck chairs a little bit and maybe go with a defensive-minded person. Obviously, you want to have a powerful offense, but that is like, to your point, what they've been doing. Now, they've had success. It's just been like very up and down. I mean, they had a year where they won 10 games with 3 head coaches, like 4 years ago or whenever it was. But yeah, I could see them maybe going with a different philosophy. I do think Del Rio will probably Wouldn't be surprised if he's in the mix or if he's mentioned in the mix. I think that's somebody that you at least have to, if you're USC, you at least have to like check that box and look into it and have an interview if he is in fact interested. And I mean, all signs, and I don't know nearly enough about him, obviously, but just based on history, I think he would be interested. So that would be a little bit more of a wild card, but I'm seeing his name already pop up a ton from fans and from media, so you may be onto something.
Joe Klatt, if I was Mike Bone, USC Athletics, I'd be patient with this search, swing big. First job of the new coach, restore recruiting order by owning Southern California. This is a program that should never be outside the top 3 nationally in recruiting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point because of where they are.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like the University of Texas, no matter all the coaching changes, they're going to have very highly ranked classes because of where they are. They should. And even then, sometimes it doesn't matter, and sometimes you can debate the rankings themselves.
All right, let's go to L.A. It says L. Riley, but I think this call might be about Lincoln Riley. So, L.A., you're on the air on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Thank God they fired that guy from USC. I'm from Los Angeles, man, and it's terrible to watch what's happening to USC. Once a powerhouse, we're not even mediocre anymore, man. Let's put that. It's just as bad as, and it's hard to be in LA and watch USC get humiliated on national TV, and it's pathetic. I'm glad they got rid of him. They should have got rid of him 2 years ago. And who should we get as the coach? Somebody that's best qualified, regardless if they have USC alumni or not. Alabama's always been great. I can see them going there. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter because what we have right now, in fact, the best school in Southern California isn't Cardinal and Gold. It's UCLA. And I'm not saying UCLA is bad. I'm just saying USC is really terrible right now. And it was terrible to watch that game. I had to turn that off. And that's my take on it.
Right. Thanks for your call.
Hey, man.
There's so much feedback.
Hey, man, appreciate the phone call, and I can hear the relief in your voice, truly. Yeah. So, hey, celebrate, crack open a cold one later tonight or whatever and celebrate because I know a lot of Trojan fans are. And it's not, anything personal with Clay Helton, obviously, because he's an A-plus person based on everything that I've read about the guy and heard about the guy. But, I mean, bottom line is you can be the nicest guy in the world. You got to win football games. And you're right, too. It doesn't help that UCLA's off to a 2-0 start and they just spanked LSU. It doesn't matter that LSU's maybe not LSU from – well, they're definitely not LSU from 2 years ago. We don't know how good really LSU is, but they won that game convincingly. Chip Kelly needed to win like that badly, so they're 2-0. And, we'll see what they do the rest of the way, but that's just salt in the wound, really. So, yeah, man, live it up. There's change afoot, and it's official, and now a coaching search will begin simultaneously with the football season. I'm curious as what their timeline will be because obviously they're not going to hire anybody in season because all their candidates are coaching right now. So that'll be interesting to see how they pull that off and then probably announce something by the end of the right after the last weekend or something like that. I don't know. But
here's you can't rush to this. There's no need to. You let the guy who's the interim, Coach Williams, finish it out. You win 5, 6, 8 games. You win 4. I don't know, but you can't. There's going to be a yet another. So we just go through all of this expansion, then you go through the Big 12 settling at least what their future is. Just wait a little bit. There's going to be something that pops, and it won't be the first big name that fires a coach. Maybe, I don't know. Doing it 2 games in goes to show you they know they had a mess on their hands.
I mean, if you watched on Saturday, guys, it was very clear.
I didn't watch it. I just saw the score. Yeah.
All right. I had to take a break from football on Saturday night for a little bit. Kevin from New York, you're on Sikkim 365 Radio.
What's going on, guys? I truly enjoy the show. You guys get me through a work day every day, so I truly appreciate it. Definitely want to talk to Clay Helton fireman and just run with me on this a little bit. I do a show here in New York, and we were talking the other day about what would be the chances that Urban Meyer plays at Bobby Petrino, leaves Jacksonville to go to USC.
Hey, I just mentioned that like 15 minutes ago as
Thank you for the call.
First thing that came into my mind. And
Thanks,
shout out to you, man. Appreciate you listening, and good luck with your show as well. But, I mean, that was one of the first thoughts that came into my head after watching the Jaguars and how bad they look. I mean, the Texans destroyed them in game one. But, I think that you at least have to look, right? You at least have to have that conversation. And look, it's Urban Meyer. So is anybody going to put past him that he would, get out of something a little early to go make a move elsewhere, a la Nick Saban? I don't think so. I mean, Nick Saban said if they would have gotten Drew Brees in Miami like he was planning on, then he probably would have stayed there, or he would have definitely stayed there longer. But once you realize, like, we're not getting a quarterback anytime soon, we're screwed, I'm out of here. I'll be curious on what Urban's thinking right now, because they have a long road ahead of them, and Trevor Lawrence is going to need some time to get to the level of play where he's justifying the number one draft pick overall. So I'm not sure. It all depends on Urban and what he likes. I mean, if he is opposed to recruiting and all that, then obviously it's off the table. But if he's willing to go through that grind again, even though it's nearly killed him a couple of times, then, yeah, he's somebody you have to talk to. But his background does make it shaky for some schools.
But he mentioned Bobby Petrino.
Well, he said, what Bobby Petrino did to the Falcons. He left. He went to the Falcons, and he left to go.
Oh, like Petrino in the middle of the night? No, he won't do that. I'm sorry for just not getting to that straight away. But no, I think the odds are probably very low that would occur. No.
All right.
Because where's he going to go? There's an interim coach, and they're not going to just put Urban Meyer in there in week 4. So that would not be realistic. But I mean, could he get tired quickly in the NFL, like Steve Spurrier did, like a Nick Saban did, when they realized, like, oh, this is not what I thought? Yeah, absolutely. But he could be a Matt Rule and want to stick around in the NFL.
When we come back, my conversation with Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach. I think it's like 10 or 12 minutes, and we will get back to you. The text line blowing up. Absolutely blowing up. The phone lines are still there, blowing up as well. A bunch of you watching and listening in the various ways we reach you. Sikkim 365 Radio continues in a moment. Ideal MRI can help save you hundreds, if not sometimes thousands of dollars because of what it costs to get an MRI. Thanks to Dr. Rob Maxey, Al LeBlanc, the partners at Ideal MRI. They're located in Waco. They have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I've been in it a couple of different times. It is amazing because also the fact that you're going to get what you need when it comes to an MRI. Your doctor says, hey, we need to get a look at that, a muscle, a ligament, whatever it might be. What hurts you? Ideal MRI has a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine, and their cost is $497, or your cost, $497 or less. Every single time. The average is $1,100 for an MRI, so you can see the difference with that. They'll help you with the insurance. If you have something that shuts you down, that hurts so bad, your doctor wants an MRI, you need to tell them about Ideal
Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process. Johnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors. Elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome Radio.
Couple of tight ends in the formation. Play fake. Bohannon. Here's the deep ball. They want to put some touch on it. Thornton's out there. Money. Touchdown. Baylor. Bang.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers. Staying in touch with you and your money through
special teams from Oklahoma State. And this is a name to watch for.
They needed
he
that
is
too.
Absolutely. Yeah, they did. This young man is talented. Zach Evans, the running back, went to TCU, had a long run to kind of turn that thing around. And their struggles with Cal ended up with 190 yards rushing in that game.
The only person who can stop Zach Evans is Zach Evans. Honestly, like if he can mature and get out of his own way, he's going to be very special.
He gives TCU a different dynamic. Quentin Johnston's a really good receiver. Their receivers were blocking great on Saturday. You know, Max Duggan is still a very unpolished passer, but he's got like some of that. He's got like that Sam Ellinger kind of quality to him of just like he's not a polished product, but he's just good enough in certain areas. You know what I mean? Like his running ability is clear. He's a dangerous runner. But, you know, if he can be consistent with his arm, he's got some fantastic weapons around him. So I think TCU is definitely a team to be, you know, watching out for.
Without him, they're not as good, and he is dynamic. From the 501, I was at the game to watch Arkansas pummel Texas. It was embarrassing for UT. Players had to wade through emptying student sections, single file to get back to the locker room, and there might have been a few horns down on the wall of shame. From the 254, the only coach to hire if they want to win is Art Briles. And again,
USC,
there's going to be that name. It depends on what school and who they are and what they want to get done, and are they willing to deal with any backlash? And I saw someone say, listen, he was exonerated.
Yeah.
The NCAA still had some pretty harsh words. He's going to win if he goes somewhere.
Right.
If you give him a place where they can get everything, then he's going to win. He's going to win big at Baylor. What he did there, he can win anywhere else he goes, if in fact that's still on the table.
Yeah, I don't know how people view that, you know, because technically he was cleared from having, you know, a situation where he had a show cause. But then again, you see the PR statement that was released shortly afterward claiming like complete innocence. And it's like, no, that's not at all what the NCAA said. The NCAA did not say in any way, shape, or form that he had no wrongdoing in any of this. They said, no, he absolutely did. And so it's like he didn't get a show cause, but clearly he was at fault for some things. So it's just in the eye of the beholder, I guess. If somebody's, like you said, willing to take that PR hit that'll come initially and then, you know, probably will last for some circles, but yeah, that's interesting. You know,
the NCAA thing coming out on Browse and people hearing it and saying he's exonerated. It's kind of like hearing that like the Mueller report or some kind of big like or the Starr report back in the day, and hearing like, okay, the one thing that they were looking for they can't prove, but there's other things that you need to look into. Doesn't mean you're exonerated. It was just that this thing in particular is a slippery slope, and people get excited. Well, that means he's exonerated. I think Art Briles deserves a second chance as a college football head coach to prove he's not what people say he is, but also to say that he's completely exonerated from the NCAA. If you read the report, it's not. Great text here from a student at USC, by the way.
901 real quick. Fun fact, Coach Helton used to be a coach at Memphis. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
From the 206, I'm a USC student and a senior. I've gone to every home football game in the last 4 years and seen this team lose countless times. Before I came to USC, all I heard about is how elite our football team was. It was a lie. I hope we can salvage a winning season this year, but don't have high expectations anymore. I think Smokey, you and I know where this kid lives. I think we know where that is.
There was a text or a chat. What do the following schools have in common? Florida State, Texas, Nebraska, Southern Cal, Tennessee, and maybe even someone else. I forgot it was a part of that list. And part of it was the fact we were talking about those who go through a lot of coaching changes. Now, Florida State had a Bowden into Fisher, but now they're on what? They're third since Jimbo Fisher, second or third since Fisher. We know about what's going on at Texas or Nebraska and even at Southern Cal. But appreciate that from a student. Appreciate your text to us.
One thing they all have in common is that they
used to be really elite,
and they're not in that level anymore. Yeah, I mean, there's that in common. And as a student, shout out to you first of all. Appreciate the text. That's got to be such a bummer, man. To go think about I'll use the close to home example, but think about if you were a freshman coming into Baylor right after the Big 12 titles, and you're like, man, our football team is kicking ass. We're beating everybody. And then the whole scandal happens, just you get 1-11, you get 7-6, at least there was, a very short road to where you did in your 4 years see some success by the end. But yeah, there's a lot of programs that were really good, and then you go there and your entire 4 years are just
no, you're right. You walk in the door thinking you're going to be a part of something that's even higher, awesome. And then
by the way, do you know what Nebraska, Florida State, USC,
Texas,
Tennessee, and Miami should be in that list as well. All former national championship programs with fluctuations at the AD position. Yeah. It's not just the head coach.
No, you're right.
They did not have elite ADs, and that hurts almost as way more than a coach.
Gary Lewis, numerous respected former USC players tweeting in polite support of the Helton firing.
Yeah, when I saw Keyshawn talking on Saturday, and I saw some others as well, but that was when the game itself told me that Helton was on his way out, but then when I saw some of the players talking, that's one of the last signs before it finally goes off the rails. Armstrong, you were trying to say something a second ago?
Oh, all I was saying is you just described exactly my experience at Baylor.
Oh, you came in right after the Big 12 titles?
Yep.
Yeah. How was that? Not fun.
That 1-11 year was...
that was tough. That was tough for everybody. Yeah.
From Cool Vid, USC is soft, S-O-F-T, capital letters. SC invented Smash Mouth football. Thank you for the chat there as well.
Maybe I need to go back to some Smash Mouth.
Yeah. It took the NCAAs. There's some other stuff here. Okay. USC needs a coach fast. If they hired, and here's another one of the Art Briles, hired Art Briles in 3 years in the playoffs to any Power 5 team unless ESPN says no. The Pac-12 is stinkier this year except for 2 teams. And UCLA is always overrated. Don't trust them.
I'm not fully in with UCLA just yet. No, I mean, they've won a couple of games, a nice start. The LSU win is a good win, but I'm not sure how good LSU is. I mean, again, it's one thing to beat them a couple of years ago. It's another thing to beat them now when Ed Orgeron himself is one of the top 5 hot seats that's out there. But, yeah.
One more, Zachary Hartle, a lifelong Ohio State fan, attended the Oregon game this weekend. This is the most beatable Ohio State team since the sanctions post-tattoo gate with Jim Tressel left.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, but shoot, think about how good they've been every single year. There are definitely some issues on that Ohio State football team. Their secondary is not quite what it's been. Defense has got some holes. So, there's a reason for concern. I mean, a bad year at Ohio State's losing 2 football games, and one of them's a playoff game usually. But who knows? I mean, I did look at their schedule, and there's not a lot of stumbling blocks, but there are a couple. And I'm curious to see sort of where they are when those games come around.
Let's say Iowa is who they play in the Big Ten championship game, which the way Iowa's playing
Iowa's run for 250 yards.
Iowa matches up well with that defense. Mm-hmm. Now,
if it got into a boat race, if they ended up getting into a track meet, with all due respect, that's not that Iowa can't score points, but that would not be in their favor. But if they were to go out and grind it and keep that thing 27-20.
If they played like Oregon did this week.
Until later when Oregon, started let's pass the ball.
Yeah.
Why? You're running it down their freaking throats. But, I mean, I was so waiting for Ohio State to win that football game by the end of it. And they made that run, and you're like, geez, this is what these teams always do, but it wasn't enough this time.
One of my favorite Darrell Royal quotes was somebody asked him, why don't you pass the ball more? He goes, well, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad.
Yeah,
true.
Jay Bird, my friend knew nothing about football, and on his application to USC, at the bottom of it asked if there were any comments he would like to add. He wrote, OJ did it. He did not get into USC.
Oh, they turned him down?
Yeah.
I wonder if they were going to let him in, and then they got to the very last line, and they were like, you know what? Never mind. I wonder, but that's at least some good comedy.
All right, let's go back to one more call, and then we'll have our conversation with Dave Aranda here momentarily.
All right, Chris, you're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. I came up with a list of 5 coaches. I'm assuming the USC AD wants to hit a home run. If you wanted to get a stopgap coach, somebody to coach for a couple years, and then bring in the guy you really want, you would pursue maybe Jimmy Johnson, see if he's got a couple years left in the tank. He was at Miami, winning national championships, and maybe, just maybe, he'd want to come back for a short period. Gary Patterson at TCU, you might give him a good payday for about 5 years and then bring in somebody else. But the top coaches I would imagine would be Matt Campbell from Iowa State, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, who campaigned for a head coach job and didn't get it. I think he's pretty hungry for a high-profile job. And the last guy would be Jamie Chadwell, the coach of Coastal Carolina, who surprisingly had very good, was 2-time finalist for Coach of the Year. I mean, I was surprised. He has done really well with a bad program and he got them right. So that would be my guys right now. Thanks.
Thanks for the call. We appreciate that. Our conversation with Dave Aranda will be in the next segment for a couple of those of you who asked.
Yeah, But on Jimmy Johnson, that's just not going to happen. That guy gets paid like $5 million a year to work 2 days a week maximum, and he doesn't have to call recruits. And, he's about to be, he's just in the NFL Hall of Fame, so he's not coming back. Gary Patterson to USC, I don't know, man. I mean,
that one at least made me raise my eyebrows and go,
I don't know. I mean, I think that Gary Patterson is good where he's at because nobody's going to bother him. Nobody's going to bother him. Nobody challenges him in Fort Worth. He goes to USC and loses, and they start asking, why are you losing? Man. Why are you losing? He will go off. No one gets in his grill in Fort Worth. He's good where he is.
Yeah, he's got a good spot in Fort Worth, and you're right. His personality is not for everybody, and I don't know how much that factors into what USC will be looking for. But yeah, he's a bit gruff at times, and I'm not sure that would really fly with LA media. But I mean, in terms of a winning football coach, yeah, he'd go there and probably kill it. I just don't know if he'd want to pick up at this point in his career and start all over again. I'm with you on Jimmy. I mean, the dude loves just being on his boat every day. Technically, he could do that, but he's already in Southern California and can do that whenever he wants. He's at the Fox studios all the time and all that. But Matt Campbell, I think, yeah, absolutely. He's got to be one of those that is, you would think, close to the top of the list for consideration for every reason. Eric Bieniemy, I was glad to hear you say that name because that was somebody I saw get brought up on a random tweet a little while ago, and I hadn't thought about him, and I was like, you know what? That actually would be kind of a brilliant move because the NFL's clearly just D'ing him around right now with the head coaching gig. So if that's never going to come, or at least it's going to be another offseason of not getting a job, I mean, you want to be a head coach? How about Southern California?
Well, and he was at Colorado. He
knows
recruited,
Pac-12.
So
yeah, he knows the Pac, or he played in the Colorado. Yeah, and he knows that area. Knows how that goes down over there. Jamie Chadwell is a very interesting name. I'm not sure if he's a big enough name. Do you think USC is going to want a name? Because we know how some programs are, right? They don't just hire the guy who's when Baylor hired Matt Rule. What was everybody's reaction? Who? Mm-hmm. Now it turns out, hey, he's a great head coach, but. Can you make a hire like that, or does it have to have some oomph behind it? Because Texas isn't hiring Matt Rule, but they're hiring Steve Sarkisian. He's already got a name. You know what I'm saying? So is USC more of that vein.
I think USC. That's why it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So Jamie Chadwell. I mean,
you're going to have somebody that is going to rub shoulders with the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right. But also then be a damn football coach.
But I mean, in terms of a football coach, yeah, hell yeah, Jamie Chadwell is a good football coach. So yeah, that's an interesting list. I think the only one that's a little unrealistic is Jimmy, just because of his age and his career at this point. But and GP, I just don't see him picking up to go to LA. It just doesn't fit his vibe. I don't see him at LA coffee shops playing guitar.
He's got the statue.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a statue.
stadium.
But the other three, absolutely. And the Bieniemy one's very interesting.
All right, when we come back, and a lot of you are still on the chat room going at it with USC or many of the other options and other games that happened over the weekend. We appreciate you. The text line, it's pretty cool to get a text from a student that is at USC. One more, the 805. We need to match the pay of the Seahawks and bring Pete Carroll back. Thanks.
Oh, man, get the band back together.
All right, when we come back, Dave Aranda, Baylor head football coach, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem, great selection of spirits. Oh, my gosh, craft beer in this walk-in fridge like you would not believe, and an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. More, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service, speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine also hiring right now. So if you need a job, the Chapmans are fantastic. You can go work for them at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Bird Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Bird Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Earlier today, I had a chance after the Baylor media session to sit down with Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. In all the years you've coached, is there a difference when you start conference play? No matter what conference you're a part of, is it ramped up? Is there more of an intensity? Is there something you feel the week of?
I would not present it that way, but it probably is true. I think people see conference play as these are teams I grew up watching. These are players I grew up playing with. Right? These are teams that could take the spot that I want to be in, and so I think human nature-wise, that is probably true.
What does it mean just to win, no matter who the opponent is? Winning, you hear about, well, they should win that game, and that's another thing. But what is it like just to win a game, just to be able to win and move on?
Yeah, I think I think one of the struggles for me has been in finding who I am and finding our team, where our players are at, where they are as people, and their aspirations and their fears, and where their confidence can be grown, and working to bring out the best in them. I think it is it can be very messy. I think sometimes when winning can almost be looked at as an alternative to that, right? Let's just, hey, you player, do what I'm saying and let's go win, as opposed to what is really at issue here, what's the solution, what can get you to be better. Mm-hmm. And so I think, but then I also think, for a coach that just says those words that I say, right, when you're backed up, or when you're, like we talked about last time, when to the left or the right of my name is 2 and 7. Yeah. Right. So I think winning is important. Winning is, I think why college athletics is such a huge piece. I just feel the ability to address our people as people and to grow them, right? We can really see and value the person, but I think we can win doing that as well. And so winning has always had not a conflicted, but a convoluted view, because I think a lot of coaches will not take the look into people. They'll go right to the players and let's try to win.
So there's a play that one of our guys on the site, Colt Barber, put up of Khalil Keith on a long run by Ebner. He's 50 yards down the field blocking. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was the case at any time last year. Mm-hmm. And how much do you play that in front of the team, and how much do you see that as a difference between what's happening right now with just the state of the team?
I think it's a great example of what we just talked about. I think that's happening because a dude feels like he's seen and heard and valued, and so now he feels like I belong, right? And I can go and give great effort, and if it don't work out the way I want it to work out, I'm not getting crushed, or I'm not getting MF'd, or whatever it is, that I'm still kind of being grown. And so I think when you have that, right, then I think the winning surely follows.
Are turnovers contagious?
Yes.
Turnovers, you obviously could have them both ways, but when you're doing what you're doing, especially when you're scooping and scoring or you're picking it off, is that something that is a feeding frenzy?
It is, yeah. I think, our group, we've got a fair amount of alphas. I think we talked about this last time, and so I think their ability to play in a cohesive, structured way is really the challenge, and so we're fortunate in that respect. And so I think to have guys that can play a responsibility, but then bring their own spin to it, bring their own personality to it, and really get it as an expression of them. JT is a great example. Petey would be a great example. Petey's got a lot of inside that he wants to bring on the outside, and so that comes out when he plays. And so I think, when you can keep it simple can become sophisticated, with our people kind of taking the mantle and then moving the scheme to the side, and then the people taking the forefront.
I don't think I've ever seen Gary Bohannon happier or at peace. I know there's a lot of work to be done. He didn't get a chance to be in front of us very often because of just the situation, but we'd interviewed him before. He looks like he is not in heaven in a way on the football field, but he is at peace with who he is and what's going on.
I believe that. I think one of the things that most impresses me with Gary is his ability to stay in the process and to stay one thing at a time, and to hold people there. I think, we watch film at night early in the week, so tonight there'll be a fair amount of guys watching tape. And so Gary has, he'll watch it with all the O-linemen one night. He'll watch it with all the receivers the next night, all the tight ends and running backs the night after that. And so, we want guys coming up, and we have a fairly strong attendance. But no attendance is stronger than when Gary's there running it. No one wants to let him down, and I think that's still building. So that's way cool to see.
How important is it that he's the quarterback in doing that? Does it matter the position?
No, but it helps for sure. I mean, it's even stronger when it's the quarterback. I think there's an example Saturday of. There's a play, and it was a pass play, and there was a look, we had protection on, and there was an overload to Gary's right, and it was on our sideline, and so our sideline, is yelling out the protection check, and Gary had already said it, and he's looking at the defense this way, and his hand goes out. Got it,
like the thumbs up.
Yeah,
I got it.
I got it. And so I think that's the thing that I think everyone feels, but when it comes to situations like that, and people's anxiety kind of grabs them for a minute and takes them, where Gary's still just calm and steady and all of it. And so what a huge strength when you have that.
What about his arm strength as well? How much, because last year you really couldn't stretch the field much, and a lot of it was protection, no running game, and sometimes you just couldn't if you had all of it. He seems to be someone that even if it's incomplete, the defense knows it's there.
Yeah, he's got a really, really strong arm, and I think, the receivers that we got with Ty, and then really good things with Hal, see Hal coming on, and then, moving Fleeks to the outside. I think you're seeing that he can open it up too. So the speed you've got there is conducive for these balls that are in the air for 40, 50 yards, And so I think the ability for him to hit those early and often really forces the team. You're really getting them to play man-free with a deep post safety, which now opens up other things. And so it is a vital part.
A couple of guys, Jalen Ellis, Drew Estrada, Squirrel Williams is always I know he warmed up, but I don't think he actually played. Are those guys getting closer?
Yes.
Is it more just making sure you don't rush them?
Yes. feel good about this week.
You and I, and you mentioned this before about Siaka, and you suspended him for the game. Is this part of when you've mentioned before his maturity about it's more than just being a freak athlete? There's a lot of other things that go into that, and to make that decision, obviously you were disappointed. Where is he? You said he's going to play this week.
Yes, yeah. I go back to with Apu being a part of his recruitment, meeting his parents, meeting his sister, being in their house multiple times, meeting his brother, getting to know their values and know what's important, what they hold dear. And then, when the opportunity at Baylor came, revisiting all of that and connecting again and expressing, hey man, y'all's values are the same as ours, right? And this is the standards that we hold, and these are the things that we believe in, and they're the same as what you're saying there. And so I know, for Apu, man, to recognize that this is family and that we got him, and that I know that he's learned from this past week, and that he's going to take this week like a champ. I believe it completely, just knowing his upbringing and his people.
How, as a coach, is it the name, the value, is it the talent, is it how good they are, or would that have been if it was the third string long snapper?
You talking about the penalty?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it would be no matter who it was. Yeah, I think having integrity, man, is like way hard. And it's way hard for me. It's way hard, and I think you can't let anything seep into that. I think your integrity, that's who you are. And so, for you to say whatever you say, that needs to be what you do.
One more thing, you were talking about seeing Bob Bowlesby in a moment where it was fun, or it was, I mean, you almost went comedian right there. I mean, how much of a relief is that all that other stuff is kind of gone? Doesn't mean there's not a hurdle down the road, but that you were able to see him in a moment that was positive and moving forward as a program in a university.
Yeah, that's what struck me about it, was that I hadn't really thought of it about that way until that moment, where it's just, we're just talking about a game and like, man, this is fun, this is cool. Whereas before it would either be, the NCAA case, or it'd be COVID when I would see them on the Zoom. And so it's just, everything was just, this is going to suck, this isn't good. And so to be a part of something that's way cool, and just to get to know them that way too, and not just going through protocol and through ifs and buts and all of it, was way neat.
With David Cade being here, who handles men's basketball as well, I want to add one more, if you don't mind. The men's basketball team received their Big 12 championship rings. I know it was the halftime, and so you guys were in the locker room, but everyone kind of knew that was happening. How much can that show your guys, hey, Baylor can win championships, and one of them is on our campus?
No, I think it's way huge. I think for Coach Drew and that staff and who they are as people, and the way that they live their lives, and I see a mastery of self and then a mastery of their craft, and I see that being connected. I don't see people there that Mr. Coach this or Mr. Coach that. I see them bettering themselves and becoming better coaches in the process, which is so cool to see. And I think you wish there would be more of that. And then I think with the team, you see people that, when I hit the campus, that people speak really high of, in terms of a student, in terms of a classmate, in terms of just a friend, and so that we can be tough and edgy and all of this on the field, right? But then we can have class and integrity off, and I feel that basketball can do it, like you say, we can do it.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Right now, Ram Power Day is going on at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Check out the new 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab, the Lone Star. That's why Ram truck owners are the most loyal to the brand. Ram trucks are engineered to bring confidence under the toughest of conditions on the road, with impressive towing capacity, payloads, and load stability. also offer comfort levels that exceed the demands of driving. The Jeep Adventure Days continue. With the 2021, the new Grand Cherokee, the most awarded SUV ever. Beautiful curved design. Grand Cherokee carries itself. Rugged elegance. And also you can drive one of these right now. Go by the lot at Allen Samuels on Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Also the Grand Cherokee L, you'll love it. Incredible Jeeps arriving every day. The Grand Cherokee L, fall in love with it, give it a drive and give it a test, and you will absolutely want to know more about it. Also the award-winning dealership at Allen Samuels. How about this? 2021 Ram, brand new. The Ram now ranked #1 automotive brand on J.D. Power's initial quality study. The 2021 Dodge brand ranked #2 behind the Ram in the named highest quality mid-size truck. They deliver great prices, great discounts, great values, and great product and great people. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Allen Samuels, DCJ.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. New look bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and both include showers, sauna, and whirlpool, and a world-class tennis courts facility and youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Welcome back. Sikkim 365 Radio. It's the top five worst from the football weekend. This is the NFL and college football. So since we've got real games now in the NFL, I thought I would throw some of that in here and gauge your responses to that. But top 5 worst from the football weekend. Number 5, Texas is still not back. They are definitely still not back.
It's a roller coaster, man.
It is. I feel bad for most any fan base who has to go through this, and it is. But I mean, you get excited and you think they've got a ways to go, and it's not fair to Steve Sarkisian to, after one game, think, "Oh, everything's fixed." No, he's got to build the team there. Like they weren't bad or they weren't reaching their standards just because Tom Herman wasn't coaching up the good players. They don't have as many good players as they thought they did.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I mean, their talent usually is a little bit blown out of proportion just because of the logo, because of recruiting rankings, which do translate to success, but not always, because you still have to develop and you have to coach and do all those things.
They got to be a fit. Yeah.
They have to be a fit. I mean, just because they're a 5-star doesn't mean they're going to play well for just any name university. But, you know, I just recall some of the angry comments we got a few weeks ago, and I enjoyed that game on Saturday.
You know what? Yeah, I want to bring this up. When we did a top 5 earlier in the summer about Texas and all that, I made the comment, I don't even know who the defensive coordinator is. And some of you came at me or whoever with the fact that I should know his name.
No, it was I said I don't know much about him.
Oh, okay.
And somebody was like, "You don't know much about Pete Kwiatkowski and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Well, it's not that I don't know who he is. I'm not a freaking savant on the guy's history or anything like that."
Well, and I said I didn't know who the defensive coordinator's name was. I don't even sometimes remember who the defensive coordinator is for the team I covered. It's not against Ron Roberts or whatever, but it's people are so
just who cares? They got whooped.
You can buy all the coordinators you want, and he might be within the next 3 or 4 weeks really damn good. But just because you get the best name or whatever they are doesn't mean it always translate immediately.
Yeah. I think that would have been realized by now, but here we are once again.
Yeah.
Number 4, the Cleveland Browns, who looked really good. They still can't win the opener. They haven't won their opener since, I believe, 2004, 2003 through 2004.
They're like 1-21 since 1999.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they played the Chiefs. Not many people are going to beat the Chiefs, but they're right there on the door. And it was a lot like the AFC Championship game. They're right there, or the playoff game. They're right there on the door. They just need one more thing to get over the hump to do that. I thought outside of the worst, though, the offensive line looked great, although Jedrick Wills did get hurt. Baker Mayfield looked fantastic. He's certainly taken some steps forward. Their running backs are great. Jarvis Landry is really playing well. So there's a lot of good things to know about the Browns. I just feel bad that they cannot win their opener.
Yeah, man, that was a blown opportunity in a major way. That's Patrick Mahomes for you. And, you know, the Chiefs just have something special. They've been riding it for a couple of years now and got so much talent and great coaching, and they're a hard team to beat, man. And you have to be up by 21 points with a minute left to go to feel like you've actually got them dead to rights. So
that may not be enough.
And that might not be enough. I mean, they could score 21 in a minute. But, yeah, that was a brutal loss. But there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the rest of the season if you're a Browns fan.
One of the things about that game for Kansas City was, after the loss in the Super Bowl, which not a lot of people expected, although Brady was on the other side, they needed to kind of like have a feel-good thing too, as good as they're going to be and as good as they have been, after winning the championship and then playing for one again the next year.
All right, to number 3, the Ohio State defense. We talked about earlier in the show. They've got problems. Their defensive coordinator left a couple years ago to take the head coaching job at Boston College. They have not been what they were since that happened. So now they've got to retool, and maybe they don't have the kind of talent that they did. Maybe they're not recruiting the right guys, but it's hard to say that for Ohio State, who gets everybody. But their problems might be scheme wise, but right now they're getting manhandled. I mean, Oregon was running through big, gigantic, gaping holes. So that's sometimes not necessarily scheme. That's just Dude's not as good as the other guy across from him.
They got manhandled, and then they found out. I just saw a second ago a little blip that safety Josh Proctor's out the rest of 2021. Suffered a leg fracture in that game against Oregon. So just saw that a few minutes ago. But yeah, their D-line. They just did not play well at all, and that's an area where you'd expect them to just be absolutely dominant versus just about anybody. But hey, man, look, Oregon's been in the top 10 in recruiting or thereabouts for a good few years now. I mean, they might have missed on occasion, but they're typically pretty high up there, so they got plenty of talent as well. I think it was the better team won, quite frankly, on Saturday. I think that overall the Ducks were a better team, and Ohio State has some questions on defense they're going to have to try and figure out.
Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Look, there's a lot of strife in the offseason about Aaron Rodgers, and he'll be fine. Eventually, he'll be fine. But for your first game back after all that strife to go 15 of 28 for 133, throw 2 picks, and get outplayed by Jameis Winston, that's a tough pill for Packer fans to swallow there.
Well, to be fair, Jameis Winston outplayed a lot of guys this weekend. He looks like a great fit in New Orleans for a first game, taking over the mantle there. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, when I saw him towards the end of the game with David Bakhtiari, who's like one of his best friends who's injured right now, and it just looked like Aaron Rodgers wanted to be anywhere else but in Green Bay. He just looked miserable, and I'm sure a lot of it had to do with the game itself. But to think of him in that situation that they're in right now, to have a loss like that to start things off with, if it doesn't get a lot better, this is going to be the longest season for Packers fans, because the inevitables, we know what the inevitable is. He's not going to play there much longer, but he's got another 16 games to go, and it was already pretty clear that him and the Packers are on the, very much on the outs.
That could go south by next week
right,
if they don't
exactly.
have some
if they lose a couple games in a row, all of a sudden, you know what I mean? I mean, they're not going to.
Well, they struggled before when he said calm down, but that looks like it's got some toxicity to it.
Yeah, it could blow up.
Yeah. All right, number 1. Mike Norvell.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Norvell on the final play of the game ran a 2-deep man under, tried to get pressure on the quarterback. They still had one timeout, so we didn't go to an immediate prevent. Mike.
Paul, you sent a text that said Florida State's about to blow this to Jacksonville State. I started watching the game cast. It was 4th and 6. It was whatever it was.
4th and 10.
And I was like, Paul, stop. We do that with our team sometimes, and I'm thinking, okay, stop. So I just kind of stopped watching. And then I saw the score change to 20-17 final. And then you called me on the way home. You owe me money for me helping you out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the frustrating part is not only did they, it's one thing to allow the pass that they did, but the pass wasn't into the end zone. And there were 2 defenders that still could have stopped him before he got into the end zone. There was a great block by one of the Jacksonville State receivers that was like the perfect block for the extra 3 yards that he needed to cross. But yeah, you had 2 guys in that vicinity, and just couldn't make a play, and that was brutal. I'm not even a Florida State fan, but I was like, oh, that's a brutal loss right there.
Okay, and this is how weird that game was. This is after the game. This is Florida State right tackle Brady Scott after the game proposing to his girlfriend at Doak Campbell Stadium while Jacksonville State celebrates on the field. Now, look, I get that it's just a game and you're talking about the rest of your life, Brady Scott. I will just tell you, my assessment of the offensive line's play was not very good, and if the right tackle was distracted, maybe that was a problem.
Yeah.
And also, maybe push it back a week, Brady. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe,
but
just maybe.
Think about her feelings too, Paul.
I know.
There was a video of when Jacksonville State was running through the end zone from one side to the other. There's a cheerleader with one of those scream, yell, whatever side, and you could see her kind of awkwardly go, "Oh, that happened." It's pretty cool.
No, her and the male cheerleader were walking away.
His mouth just agape, just like
that just happened.
And she was cracking up laughing. You could tell, they're not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are football fans, but there's also a lot of people that are just like, we just go to school here. It doesn't really matter that this game line. I guess you got to laugh when it hurts, right? So I guess that's what the cheerleaders were doing. I guess if anything, their engagement will always be memorable because it came after one of the most embarrassing losses in school history.
One of the
fair.
From Arkansas alum Chanston, 2 bad plays, otherwise Texas would only have 7 points. The interception, the failed 4th and goal stop, They got destroyed.
That was the thing, is like that final score was not indicative of how much they dominated that game.
I didn't get to watch any of it. I just saw kind of bits and pieces of it. Craig, in fact, early on in I guess it was the Baylor game, and he's like, hey, are you seeing this Arkansas score? Texas, I said, it was 13-0 at the time, and of course they just opened up a can of kick, you know what?
Yeah, no, it was 13-0, and I was not going to look at any more updates because I've done that a billion times in the past with a certain game, and then of course the team comes back and wins. It's like Ohio State and Oregon. You're like, oh, all right, here come the Buckeyes, get our hopes up. But no, then when I did glance down and somebody would tweet from, Austin Paper or something, I was like, oh, wait, that lead's getting bigger. That lead's growing again, and yeah.
And they would answer every time UT would do something. All right, there's so many of you we can't even get to. Carl Campbell, I'm looking forward to this weekend's whiteout. Penn State, Auburn, and Happy Valley. We'll have a Penn State writer tomorrow, a USC writer tomorrow, along with our regular guest, including AD Mac Rhodes. And from the 951 to wrap up today's story about Clay Helton, they had to wait to fire him because of the buyout. Lynn Swann hurt them badly.
Yeah, he did, and that was like a $10 million, or I don't want to throw out the wrong figure. I thought I saw 10 earlier, but yeah, no, that buyout, I did read that, a couple of different reporters stating that was a major reason why it may have took as long as it did. But hey, USC fans, rejoice. The Helton era is over. As good of a guy as he was, it was not doing your football program any favors, so now you get to get all excited about a coaching search and an interim coach and all that stuff. We've been there before, that's for sure.
All right, thanks to Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims. Thanks to Dr. Linda Livingstone, Baylor president, Dave Aranda as well. And tomorrow we'll have more. Thank you, those of you who watch or listen on YouTube, online, the app, and much more. I'm David Smoak. Have a great Monday night, and sick 'em 365 Radio. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.